Recently, things have become increasingly difficult, and I'm in desperate need of advice. My mother married my stepdad when I was 16. Initially, everything appeared fine. He was pleasant enough when we were all together. However, I noticed a change in his behavior when it was just the two of us. He would make remarks about how I was lazy or not contributing enough around the house. I tried to ignore his comments and simply stayed out of his way. As time passed, the situation deteriorated. Whenever my mom wasn't around, he would criticize everything I did, from the way I handled chores, to the music I listened to and even how I dressed. Nothing I did was satisfactory to him. I attempted to talk to my mom about it several times, but she always dismissed my concerns. She would say things like, "Oh, he's just trying to help you become more responsible." Or, "I'm sure he doesn't mean it that way." The real issue began about 6 months ago when my mom discovered she was pregnant. My stepdad was ecstatic. He began discussing plans for the baby's room and expressing his excitement about becoming a father. Although I was happy for my mom, I couldn't shake the feeling of being left out. That's when the fabrications began. My stepdad started telling my mom various falsehoods about me, claiming I stayed out late when I didn't or that I was being disrespectful to him, which was untrue. I tried to defend myself, but it was always my word against his. My mom seemed uncertain and didn't know whom to trust. Last week, my stepdad announced his intention to remodel the house to create a nursery for the baby. He talked about knocking down walls and rearranging rooms. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but then the situation took an unexpected turn. 2 days ago, my mom called me for a talk. She seemed uneasy and avoided making eye contact. She began, "Honey, you're 19 now and becoming a man. We think it might be time for you to get your own place." I was taken aback and managed to stammer, "What? Why? Did I do something wrong?" She quickly reassured me, No, it's not that. It's just with the baby coming, we need the space, and you're old enough to be on your own. It will be good for you to learn some independence." Her tone and body language made it clear that this wasn't her idea. My stepdad was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, with a smug look on his face. That's when I realized he had orchestrated this. I tried to argue, explaining that I wasn't ready to move out. I'm still in community college and working part-time at a local grocery store. There's no way I can afford my own place right now. But my mom kept insisting that it would be good for me and that I needed to grow up. The worst part was when my stepdad joined in. He said, "You've got 2 days to find a place. We need to start the remodeling soon, and we can't have you underfoot while we're getting ready for the baby." 2 days? How am I supposed to find a place to live in 2 days? I have no savings, no knowledge about renting an apartment, and no one to stay with. All my friends still live at home too. Yesterday, I spent the entire day in a daze. I couldn't concentrate at work and kept making mistakes. My boss noticed and asked if everything was okay. I mumbled something about family problems and tried to pull myself together. When I got home, I overheard my mom and stepdad talking in the kitchen. My stepdad was saying it was high time I moved out and how I was holding them back. My mom sounded uncertain, but he kept talking over her, saying things like, "You've got to cut the cord sometime," and "He'll thank us for this later." I wanted to barge in and tell them both off, but I knew it would be pointless. My stepdad has my mom under his control, and anything I say will just be twisted and used against me. 2 days ago, my mom called me for a talk. She seemed uneasy and avoided making eye contact. She began, "Honey, you're 19 now and becoming a man. We think it might be time for you to get your own place." I was taken aback and managed to stammer, "What? Why? Did I do something wrong?" She quickly reassured me, No, it's not that. It's just with the baby coming, we need the space, and you're old enough to be on your own. It will be good for you to learn some independence." Her tone and body language made it clear that this wasn't her idea. My stepdad was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, with a smug look on his face. That's when I realized he had orchestrated this. I tried to argue, explaining that I wasn't ready to move out. I'm still in community college and working part-time at a local grocery store. There's no way I can afford my own place right now. But my mom kept insisting that it would be good for me and that I needed to grow up. The worst part was when my stepdad joined in. He said, "You've got 2 days to find a place. We need to start the remodeling soon, and we can't have you underfoot while we're getting ready for the baby." 2 days? How am I supposed to find a place to live in 2 days? I have no savings, no knowledge about renting an apartment, and no one to stay with. All my friends still live at home too. Yesterday, I spent the entire day in a daze. I couldn't concentrate at work and kept making mistakes. My boss noticed and asked if everything was okay. I mumbled something about family problems and tried to pull myself together. When I got home, I overheard my mom and stepdad talking in the kitchen. My stepdad was saying it was high time I moved out and how I was holding them back. My mom sounded uncertain, but he kept talking over her, saying things like, "You've got to cut the cord sometime," and "He'll thank us for this later." I wanted to barge in and tell them both off, but I knew it would be pointless. My stepdad has my mom under his control, and anything I say will just be twisted and used against me. So here I am, sitting in my room, desperately trying to figure out what to do next. With less than 24 hours to come up with a plan, I'm completely at a loss. I can't afford an apartment, have no nearby relatives who could take me in, and I don't even know where to start looking for a roommate. I've considered reasoning with my mom one last time, but I'm worried it will only make things worse. My stepdad will likely accuse me of trying to manipulate her. I've also thought about refusing to leave, but I'm unsure what the consequences would be. Could they legally kick me out? Would they call the police? I don't want to cause a big scene, but I also don't want to end up homeless. Part of me wants to pack a bag and leave tonight, but I don't know where I would go. I might be able to crash on a friend's couch for a night or two, but that's not a long-term solution. I feel like my entire world is falling apart. This is the only home I've ever known, and now I'm being forced out with no warning and no support. I'm furious at my stepdad for orchestrating this, hurt that my mom is going along with it, and terrified about what will happen to me. I keep thinking about all the things I'm going to miss: the smell of my mom's cooking, the familiar creaks of the floorboards, even the stupid arguments with my stepdad. It might not have been perfect, but it was home. And what about the baby? I was actually looking forward to being a big brother, even if it was going to be strange. Now I might not even get to know my little sister or brother. Will my mom and stepdad just pretend I don't exist? I'm trying to stay calm and think logically, but it's incredibly difficult. Every time I start to make a plan, my mind blanks out with panic. How am I supposed to juggle school, work, and finding a place to live all at once? And even if I do find somewhere, how will I afford it? I've spent hours scrolling through rental listings online, but everything is so expensive. Even the cheapest studios are far beyond my part-time salary, and most places require first and last month's rent plus a security deposit. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? I've thought about dropping out of school to work full-time, but that feels like giving up on my future. I've worked so hard to keep my grades up, and I don't want to throw that away, but I can't see how I can continue attending classes if I don't have a place to live. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. This isn't fair. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not a bad kid. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I've never been in trouble with the law. I help out around the house. I get decent grades. I have a job. Why am I being punished? I keep replaying conversations with my stepdad in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. Maybe if I had stood up to him more, or if I had tried harder to bond with him, things would be different. But deep down, I know that's not true. He made up his mind about me a long time ago, and nothing I could have done would have changed that. I've thought about reaching out to my real dad, but we haven't spoken in years. He left when I was little and has never shown much interest in being part of my life. I don't even know if he'd answer if I called. As for other families, my grandparents passed away a year ago, and I don't really know my aunts and uncles. They live in different states, and we've never been close. I can't imagine any of them would be willing to take me in. The most difficult part is the overwhelming sense of isolation. I can't discuss this with my mom because she has clearly chosen her side. My friends try to be supportive, but none of them truly grasp what I'm experiencing. They all seem to think that moving out is some exciting adventure, not realizing that I'm being pushed out without any preparation or place to go. I've considered posting on social media to ask if anyone knows of a cheap room for rent, but I'm too embarrassed. I don't want everyone knowing my situation or thinking I'm a failure who can't take care of himself. As time passes, I'm becoming increasingly desperate. I've started looking at ads for roommates, but most of them prefer someone older or with a full-time job. I've even thought about sleeping in my car for a while, but I don't know if that's safe or even legal. I keep hoping that my mom will come to her senses, realize how insane this is, and tell my stepdad to back off. But every time I see her, she just gives me a sad, pitying look and asks if I've found a place yet. It's like she's already given up on me. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, about to be pushed off. I'm not prepared for this. I lack the skills and resources to live independently. I'm terrified of ending up homeless or having to drop out of school. If anyone has gone through a similar situation or has any advice, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm running out of time and options, and I don't know where else to turn. Thank you for reading this far, and I apologize for the lengthy post. I just needed to get it all out. Update. Hey everyone, I can't believe I'm writing this update. So much has happened in the last 24 hours, and my head is still spinning. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post with advice and support. It really helped me get through a tough night. After I posted, I was still panicking about what to do. That's when I remembered my grandma's sister, who has always been like a godmother to me. I hadn't thought of her at first because she lives pretty far away, but I was desperate and decided to give her a call. As soon as I explained the situation, she got really quiet. Then she said, "Don't you worry about a thing, sweetie. You don't need to go anywhere. I'm coming there tomorrow and we'll sort this all out." I was confused but relieved. I tried to tell her it wasn't necessary for her to come all this way, but she insisted. She told me not to say anything to my mom or stepdad and just act normal until she got here. The next day, my stepdad was growing more impatient. He repeatedly asked if I'd found a place yet, making comments about how I needed to be out by the afternoon. I kept my head down and told him I was still looking. At around 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. My stepdad answered it, and I immediately recognized my godmother's voice. She sounded unusually angry, which was strange because she's usually very calm. She marched into the living room where my mom and I were sitting and announced, "We need to talk, all of us now." My stepdad tried to argue, saying it was a family matter, but my godmother shut him down. "I am family," she declared, "and I have something very important to tell you all." That's when she revealed the shocking news. She looked directly at me and said, "Honey, this house is legally yours. Your grandmother left it to you in her will. You're the owner, and no one can force you to leave." I was stunned. My mom was equally shocked, and my stepdad's face turned red with anger. He began sputtering, claiming it couldn't be true, but my godmother pulled out some documents from her purse. She explained that my grandma had amended her will shortly before she passed away. Apparently, she'd been aware of my mom's relationship with my stepdad, which had begun before their marriage, and she didn't trust him. Concerned that he might take advantage of my mom and me, she decided to leave the house to me to ensure our protection. My mom was in tears, questioning why she had never been informed about this. My godmother clarified that the changes were made quickly and secretly while my grandma was on her deathbed. She had promised my grandma to keep it a secret unless it became absolutely necessary. Now, looking at my stepdad, she said, "It's necessary." My stepdad completely lost his temper. He started yelling about how it was unfair and how we had deceived him. He even tried to snatch the papers from my godmother, but she quickly pulled them away. That was when I finally found my voice. I stood up and firmly told him to stop. I declared, "This is my house, and I won't tolerate you acting like this here." Saying it felt strange but also empowering. For the first time, I felt like I had some control over the situation. My mom was still crying, torn between me and my stepdad. She looked confused and conflicted. I felt sympathy for her, but I was also angry that she had gone along with his scheme to kick me out. After things calmed down a bit, we all sat down to talk. My godmother explained the legal details, and it turns out I've been the owner of the house since my 18th birthday. My stepdad kept trying to argue, but there wasn't much he could say. In the end, I made a decision. I told them that I was willing to let everyone stay in the house, including my stepdad and the baby when it comes, but I had conditions. First, my stepdad had to start treating me with respect. No more criticism, no more lies to my mom about me. Second, we all had to go to family counseling to work on our relationships. And third, any major decisions about the house had to be discussed with me first. My mom agreed right away. My stepdad wasn't happy, but he didn't have much choice. It was either accept my terms or leave. It's been a few days now, and things are still tense. My stepdad barely speaks to me, but at least he's not being openly hostile anymore. My mom seems torn between guilt over what happened and relief that we're all still together. I'm still processing everything. It's weird to suddenly be the owner of a house at 19. I've got a lot to learn about property ownership and responsibilities, but I'm also feeling more secure than I have in a long time. I know we've got a long way to go before we're anything like a happy family, but at least now I know I have a place here, and no one can take that away from me. Thank you again to everyone who offered support and advice, and a huge thank you to my grandma, wherever she is, for looking out for me even after she was gone. I promise I'll do my best to take care of this house and make her proud. Am I the asshole for feeling suspicious after finding condoms in my boyfriend's toiletry bag? This morning, I was helping my 25 boyfriend, 23, get ready for work. He asked me to grab his toothbrush and toothpaste out of his toiletry bag. He has one of those electric toothbrushes with the detachable head, and I couldn't find the head. So I opened up another pocket to look for it. I found condoms, a lot of them. He was given this toiletry bag for Christmas before he left on a 3-month trip to visit family in Europe. He acted surprised, like he didn't know they were in there and took them out immediately. He acted like he didn't know that pocket existed. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but at some point these condoms were packed in his bag over the past 6 months. We've been together for 2 years. The worst part is they're latex condoms. I'm allergic to latex. We only use non-latex condoms, in addition to my birth control. AIO for feeling suspicious about this. I feel like I'm going crazy. Update. I've seen the comments and I'm kind of freaking out. I'm messaging my therapist right now to figure out the best path forward. I was there at Christmas when he was given the bag. It was at his best friend's family house, so part of me is hoping that his best friend put them in there not knowing I'm allergic to latex. We haven't been intimate as much lately. Maybe once in the past 2 months. I've been really scared that he's not attracted to me anymore, because that's what most people say on here is the reason for someone's sex drive changing so drastically. He asked to move in with me when he came back from his trip and I said yes, so now I feel really trapped, like what if he's been cheating this whole time he's been living with me? He shares his location, but that doesn't really mean anything. I'm here all the time. I've seen the stories of how people cheat even when sharing their location. I wish I hadn't seen anything, and I don't know anything he could say to make me feel more secure. Someone said I shouldn't have asked so I could snoop and find out for sure, but I don't want to have to snoop through my partner's belongings to find proof of them cheating on me. A relationship without trust is dead. We're supposed to talk later and I'll update afterwards. Everyone is so sure he's cheating and I really hope he's not, because I don't think I'll be able to handle it if he is. I'm already struggling with my mental health as is. Additional information from OP on why she was in therapy. OP. I'm in therapy because I have CPTSD. I am a survivor of attempted murder at the hands of my biological father, sexual assault and abuse. I am in therapy because my diagnosis is something I will have to live with for the remainder of my life, because I have experienced severe trauma, and because I have no intention of letting it ruin my life and relationships with those I love. I'm also not the one turning down sex. I'm the one that's been attempting to initiate. I messaged my therapist because I have a tendency to push people away to protect myself as a result of my history with abuse. My therapist warned me at the start of this current relationship about self-sabotage and reading too much into things. I texted her because I was unsure of whether or not I'm overreacting, because sometimes, like any other human, I need advice. I came on here while I was waiting for her to respond. I don't expect people on Reddit to be informed on the details of my life and relationship to be able to have the full picture. Thank you for the diagnosis, assumptions, and empathy. Update 1. I definitely was not expecting to see over 1,000 comments on my post. This update is long to address everyone's concerns in the previous post. Thank you to the people who sent me kind messages to check on me. I'm not sure what the people who sent me messages trying to fuck me were expecting aside from getting blocked. That being said, I did have a conversation with my boyfriend last night. I was always planning on having an in-depth conversation about what I had found, but there was nothing I could do about it while he was at work. I texted my therapist because I could tell I was starting to spiral, and posted on here while I was waiting for her response, which I think was a mistake, if I'm being honest. Although the majority of the comments were supportive, it's impossible for y'all to have as full of a picture as my therapist does, and I should have just waited for her to respond to me instead of coming on here. The massive amount of comments was very overwhelming. However, I do think that posting did help me feel more secure in thinking it was suspicious and enabled me to be more assertive when we talked. I appreciate all the comments telling me I was not overreacting. He never said I was, but his nonchalant response certainly made me feel that way. I appreciate the thought-out comments encouraging me to have a conversation with him and giving me genuine advice for it. The second conversation went better. I didn't accuse him of anything. I pretty much just said that finding non-latex condoms in addition to the lack of intimacy I'd been receiving was making me feel confused and upset. I asked him where the condoms came from. His older brother gave them to him while he was in Europe. To prevent confusion, I'm going to use fake names from here on out. My boyfriend is Theo. His oldest brother is Alvin. His other brother is Simon. Yes, like the Chipmunks. I couldn't think of other names for 3 brothers. Sorry. Theo hadn't met his mother's side of the family, including his mother, grandmother, aunt, and older siblings, until his trip. The entire purpose was to get to know his family. He spent half with his aunt, grandma, brothers, and cousin in Spain. The other half of the trip he spent with his mother in the middle of nowhere in Portugal, helping her open a kiosk. It was not a sightseeing trip. He didn't get to see any big monuments or go to major cities. I was not able to come because I'm in school and work full-time, and it wasn't worth it for me to just come for a week during the spring break. I also thought it was important for him to enjoy his one-on-one time with his mom since he was separated from her when he was an infant. His brothers are very different people. Simon seems well-adjusted with a long-term girlfriend. He spent a lot of time with Simon and his girlfriend, who was the only one there fluent in English, and helped him translate when his Spanish fell short. His oldest brother, the 30-year-old who gave him the condoms, Alvin, has been in and out of prison for a majority of his life. I guess Spain has some weird laws around squatting, so whenever he gets out of prison the dude just claims abandoned property and fixes it up to live in, because I guess the government would have to provide him housing if they kicked him out. Anyways, while Theo was on the trip, he called and texted me every day. He told me about Alvin obnoxiously catcalling girls when they'd all walk down the street, and how Alvin had tried to get both him and Simon to go to an orgy with him despite both of them having girlfriends. Theo was very clear about having a girlfriend. He carries around a picture of me in his wallet, and his aunt said he talked about me a lot while he was there. Despite this, Alvin was very pushy with him about how he should be fucking a bunch of women while he was there and having fun. I remember this from when Theo was there. He found it really annoying. So did Simon. I guess during one of those conversations, Alvin straight up gave Theo a bunch of condoms to use to cheat on me. Side note, I counted them based on a comment someone left about how many are typically in a pack. They're all still there, I think. There's 8. I don't know how many come in the packs in Spain. Theo hid them in his bag. He said he would have left them there, but his aunt cleaned his room regularly and he didn't want the drama of his other family members seeing. Once he got back, he forgot they were in there. He only uses his toiletry bag when he goes to the gym. We went out together with our friends Saturday night after his shift and stopped at the gym on the way downtown so he could shower and freshen up. Otherwise, his toothbrush is in our bathroom. He's not living out of a suitcase, he's fully moved in. I do see how some commenters saw the existence of the toiletry bag as a red flag when we lived together. So I wanted to clear that up. I did ask him why he accepted the condoms. He said he had zero intention of using them, and that he accepted them because Alvin wouldn't listen to anything Theo said about me, and that he left him alone after that. Theo didn't even say goodbye to him when he left. He tried to spend as little time with Alvin as possible, despite him constantly inviting both Theo and Simon over to his abandoned house. Simon grew up with Alvin, but still seemed pretty content about avoiding him when I asked about it while Theo was there. I guess he's just not a good person, so the rest of the family avoids him when possible. So that's it. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me. The condoms came from his older brother. I believe him. He was very straightforward with his answers, and was more concerned with my well-being when he came home and saw how upset I was. He wasn't defensive at all. He listened to me without interrupting. He told me he loves me and that he has zero desire to cheat on me. He also works 2 jobs, shares his location, and usually is at home if he's not at work or the occasional gym visit. He doesn't have the time to see other women, and if he does have spare time, he spends it with me or his friends, who are also my friends. He does have friends separate from our friend group at work, but he invites me to come along when they've gone out or asks me to join them when they play Overwatch after work. I love him, I believe him, and I'm moving past this. That doesn't mean I'll let any additional red flags slide if they pop up though. As many of you said, I'm still young and have my whole life ahead of me. If things get worse, I know I'll be okay by myself. I love him and I want him in my life, but my happiness doesn't depend on his presence. I have a therapy session tomorrow, and I've had a lot of time to think. In hindsight, I think what made me spiral the most was that if he really did cheat on me, I'd be living with a stranger. I've had so much trust built up towards him, so I view him as this person who would never hurt me intentionally or yell at me or cheat on me. If he was capable of cheating on me, he could be capable of those other things too. That was really scary to think about and made me spiral. The massive amount of comments where everyone was so convinced he was a terrible person and that I'd been fooled also did not help. I felt like I had no idea how he would react towards me if it was true, and I was very, very scared. As soon as he came home, I felt very silly for feeling that way. He's nothing like my ex. He's never given me a reason to be afraid of him. I shouldn't have let comments on the internet freak me out so bad, and I definitely need to take some time away from Reddit. I hope I addressed all the questions, concerns in the comments. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for listening. For the commenters who had questions regarding our sex life and relationship in general. When he first came back from his trip and moved in, things were normal and we both had high sex drives. Things started slowing down pretty drastically over the past couple of months. We've talked about it prior to me finding the condoms. We both acknowledge that it's an issue and that we're at an age where our sexual activity should be at its peak. He says he doesn't know what's wrong. He's embarrassed because he's attracted to me and doesn't understand how he can have a gorgeous girlfriend and lose his sex drive. His words, not mine. He has an appointment next week to get his hormones checked and has been looking into getting a therapist of his own in case the issue is mental and not physical. It's still difficult to not feel insecure when I try initiating and he's not in the mood, but he still makes an effort to show affection in other ways. Our current level of intimacy isn't ideal, but I don't think it's a lost cause as long as we're working towards a solution together. We have date nights every week. I'm very supportive of him spending time with his friends, and he does the same for me. We live together, but no one is clingy or codependent. We do check in with each other to see how we're feeling about the living situation since it is somewhat new and we're still figuring out how to divide and conquer with household tasks. I'm a full-time student and I work full-time. He works 2 jobs. We both contribute equally. and do our best to make time for ourselves and each other despite our busy schedules. I have 14 credits this summer and barely exist outside of work and school, lol. For the commenters who had some things to say about me having a therapist or mental health issues, I try my best to ensure that I am my main support system. I've been in the position before of being someone's emotional punching bag due to their mental illness, and I would never ever put someone I love in that position. I'm in therapy because I have experienced an extreme amount of trauma and don't want my CPTSD to impact my life and relationships in a negative way. I grew up with a mom with severe anxiety, and most likely undiagnosed PTSD, related to the trauma both of us experienced at the hands of my biological father. She doesn't believe in therapy. I had to call 911 several times as a small child because of her panic attacks. I love my mom, and our relationship has come a long way, but the last thing I would want when I have children is for me to be an unstable parental figure. My usage of therapy doesn't warrant me staying single. My therapist has been very encouraging of this relationship since my boyfriend asked me out 2 years ago. I had gotten out of an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship the year prior, and had zero intention of getting into another serious relationship anytime soon. I was thriving and my therapist thought I was ready, but I told my boyfriend that I needed to focus on myself. We took things slow. He was respectful and patient every step of the way until I was ready. He has never raised his voice at me or even cussed at me. He is a very caring partner. I think his love language is based on quality time and acts of service. He's not great with words, but he tries. He can be a bit emotionally distant at times and not know exactly what to say when I'm upset, but that doesn't prevent him from being there and giving me a hug when I need it. We've been going through a rough patch with our intimacy, and when I was off my meds I felt like he, and everyone else in my life, viewed me as a burden despite him telling me he'd be there for me and for me to just ask for whatever I needed. He's told me many times that he's still attracted to me and that it has nothing to do with me, but when I was feeling low I kind of let my past trauma impact how I felt about myself. Being repeatedly sexually assaulted kind of made me feel like my worth is based on my sexuality, so having a boyfriend who isn't all over me anymore made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Like if I'm trying to initiate and I'm available and the person who loves me doesn't want it, but someone else was willing to violently take it from me when I didn't want it, what does that say about me? I know that's not rational and I've talked a lot about it in therapy, but it is something that I struggle with sometimes. I posted on here during a low time with my depression because I needed to vent and didn't want to burden anyone I knew with my irrational negativity. Depression is weird, especially after years of therapy. When I'm at my lowest, the intrusive thoughts are overwhelming, but deep down I know they're irrational and that they'll eventually pass, even if it doesn't feel like it on the surface level. I know some of the things I said then were concerning, but I really wasn't in any danger. There's a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life, and I know I'm capable of them even if it does feel hopeless sometimes. I know I have people in my life who love me. I just have a hard time reaching out for help when I need it and need to be better at letting people be there for me. My mom raised me to be really self-sufficient, and she's also got a lot on her plate with my dad being sick, so I don't want to bother her and make her spiral more than she already is. I've been set back a lot with my education because of all the stuff I've been going through, but I know I have a bright future and that I should be proud of myself for making it this far. I am back on medication and am increasing the frequency of my therapy appointments from once a month to every other week. I was doing well before I went off my meds, so I'm doing my best to get back on track. Sorry for rambling. I know I don't owe anyone an explanation of my mental health here, but I know some people were worried. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay, with or without my boyfriend. My mental illness does not prevent me from being a loving and supportive friend and partner. Using therapy doesn't make me a weak person incapable of standing up for myself and making decisions. Update 2. I'm low-key regretting posting an update at all. I don't know why the opinions of strangers bother me, but it's kind of annoying that so many people didn't read the entire thing and just said I wrote all that to convince myself. I wrote that a full 24 hours after I had my conversation with him and debated posting anything at all because I figured people would be convinced he cheated regardless of anything I had to say. It's detailed because so many people had different things to say about different parts of my original post. I thought if I just posted his brother gave him the condoms, people would say that was a vague answer. Of course it feels like a complex story to someone who never heard about his trip, but the only thing I didn't already know was that his brother had given him condoms. His trip was a shit show. He was on the phone with me every single day telling me about it and fell asleep on the phone with me 99% of the time. He wasn't going out at night, he wasn't partying. Half his trip he spent with his estranged mother and her crazy racist abusive boyfriend who kept accusing him of stealing and saying wild shit about how he couldn't believe my boyfriend would sleep with an *****er like me. I had to talk him down on the phone to keep him from freaking out and endangering himself because he had no way of getting home if his mom's boyfriend kicked him out. He already got abandoned in a random town in Portugal by them for like a full day and a half at one point. I'm not surprised the condom slipped his mind. If he hadn't maintained constant communication with me while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he hadn't told me about all the other crazy shit his brother pulled while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he had gotten defensive at all, I'd be suspicious. He didn't lie to me. He didn't know they were there. The bag has a million pockets and he only really uses one of them. The pocket seemed empty from the outside. He forgot he stashed them there. People seem so sure that I'm this naive, spineless person when I'm not. If you'd read what I said about my mental health, you would know I already have a tendency to be hyper-vigilant about red flags and be avoidant to protect myself. I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like depending on other people. I mentioned my boyfriend never yelling or cursing because I've quite literally never witnessed him get angry. The most upset I've seen him was when he was trying to defend me while he was in Europe. He's probably the most calm, stoic person I've ever met. I love that about him. I love him. I trust him. Also, his last serious relationship ended with him catching his ex in the act of cheating on him. She had mental health issues and responded to being caught by attempting to kill herself by walking into traffic. I know some internet troll is going to say that's another far-fetched story, but I know it's true. His best friend's mom, who is basically also his mom, pulled me aside when she met me and told me that she was glad he found someone that makes him so happy after everything he went through with her. I don't think he would cheat on me after going through something like that. He's a really good person. He's fully capable of being a support system for me. I just was afraid to let him because I didn't want him to feel like he had to worry about me or take care of me the way he did with her. That's not healthy though. I'm trying to be better at trusting people when they say that they want to be there for me, and that includes him. We met at school. He sat behind me in class so he couldn't even really see me. When I asked him later what most attracted him to me, he said that I was well-spoken. My appearance was just a bonus. I don't want to sound conceited, but there is rarely a time when I'm in public and I'm not approached by someone who wants to catcall me, compliment me, or ask me out. I was almost kidnapped twice as a teenager. I hate being approached. I hate being asked out. I turned down every other person that approached me at school trying to hook up or ask me out. But when he did it, he was so nervous and respectful and he felt different somehow, and so I said yes. On our very first date, he took me to an art museum. We went to an amusement park after that. He followed that up with a picnic under the stars where we spoke for at least 5 or 6 hours about our lives and what we wanted in the future. It felt scary at the time because it was the best date I'd ever been on in my life and I didn't think I was ready for anything serious, and he came along and made me feel so comfortable and at ease. We both come from emotionally volatile parents and are trying to do our best not to become them. We connected right away, but I still wanted to take things slow. It took 6 months before I was ready to make things official. During that time, he made it clear that I was the only one he was interested in. He detailed my car multiple times, brought me flowers, got my cat little holiday-themed bandanas. He bought me vinyls of albums that he noticed I listened to in the car. He did all of this without expecting anything in return, and still does these things to this day. He's trying to learn how to braid so we don't have to get my hair done anymore. When he moved in, he organized my whole closet without me asking because he remembered me complaining about it and wanted to take something off my plate. He saw I've been wanting a Gustav Westman mirror for a while and built me one. With his hands. Took me to Home Depot and let me pick out the color I wanted for it and everything. He treats me like a queen. The only rough patch in our relationship has been over the past couple of months when our intimacy decreased, but I have faith things will get better. Finding those condoms freaked me out, but I'm over it now. It's been resolved. If you can't see the value he adds to my life, that's your problem. I'm happy. I'm not responding to any more comments about it. I appreciate everyone that was supportive and recognized the effort I've put into my emotional regulation. I'm going to take a break from Reddit and enjoy the life I have. I feel unsafe because my autistic neighbor exhibits strange behavior. He constantly follows me when I take my dog outside at night. Hi all, I've never posted here before, but I've been thinking about writing this for a while now, since I'm really starting to feel uncomfortable and could really use some advice for who to contact and what to do. I 23F live in student housing as a graduate student. I have my own apartment in a small multifamily complex. There are about 4 other students there, one of which I will refer to as S, 45M. S has autism. I know these terms are outdated, but for context, his autism is rather profound, and he has lots of social difficulties and stims in conversation. I previously haven't had any real difficulties interacting with him, especially since I used to be an instructor for children with autism and am used to handling various social behaviors from people on the spectrum. But in the past couple of months, his behavior towards me has changed, and I'm at a loss for what to do. I take my dog out at various times throughout the night to relieve herself. There's only one way out of the complex, and I have to pass by S's apartment in order to do this. But after living here for about 6 months, I didn't have any trouble with this. Sometimes, he'd come out to say hi, and I'd let him pet my dog, but this was always at an appropriate time. About a month and a half ago, things started to get weird when I took my dog out at 4:30 a.m., which isn't unusual, and saw him peeking at me through the window. He then opened the door and came outside to sit down and pet my dog. She started barking and I politely told him that I can't have her barking at this time of night and took her inside. I'll admit I felt a bit uncomfortable with him coming out so late at night. After all, he is a large older man and I'm a very small female. For the next month, I would notice S lingering outside the apartments a lot more often. I found it disconcerting when he was doing this late at night. My partner, 20F, came to visit for a month, and while she was there, his behavior got even stranger. Nearly every time I took my dog outside, he would open his door and come out to talk to me, which made me uncomfortable because it seemed he was actively watching for me. But when I asked my partner to come out with me, he would open the door, see her with me, and then close the door without a word. It got to the point where I no longer wanted to take my dog out alone and eventually put up a security camera for peace of mind. The day my security package was actually delivered, my partner was up having a school Zoom meeting in my kitchen while I slept. Apparently, during the meeting, she started to hear him yell my name outside my door, followed by "package." And she ignored it, but it went on for several minutes. This made me really nervous to hear about, and after I put the camera up, the behavior slowed. But the other day, my partner went back to her home state again, and S's behavior changed again. He came up to me on the way back from doing laundry in our shared laundry room and asked me if I was a lesbian. I was kind of taken aback, but figured since he has autism, he doesn't really understand if a question is inappropriate. But 2 days later, it got worse. I was taking my garbage out, and there's a small alley between our apartments and the dumpsters. There's only one way in or out. It was nearly midnight and I checked the cameras first to ensure I was alone before going out, but when I turned around, he was standing in the alley, nearly blocking my way out. He looked on the verge of tears. I awkwardly said hi and stepped around him so I wouldn't be cornered in the alley, and he started confessing a variety of emotional and family problems to me. I could see he was having a hard time, so I was polite and answered him and advised him to see a therapist if he needed someone to talk to. He then said something odd to me about not having a partner and how he wanted one really badly, not to put me on the spot, and mentioned he knew about my current partner. Of course, now I think I see why he's been acting so strange towards me. Here's the thing though. He's still following me outside when I take my dog out, and sometimes will just stand there quietly and watch if I'm not engaging with the conversations he's trying to start. I have started carrying pepper spray and will admit I'm feeling very concerned for my safety. My mom says it's a harmless crush and I should just politely tell him to stop cornering me, but I don't know how to safely have this conversation, just in case I may actually be in danger, and I don't feel comfortable doing so. Any advice on what I should tell him to make him understand his behavior is making me feel unsafe? Should I even tell him? Even though he has autism, I feel like he should know not to corner me in an alley at midnight. My school does not have many people working during the summer, and I'm not sure who I should report this to, if I do. Several people close to me who have met him, including someone who is also on the autism spectrum, are telling me to not confront him and just report this behavior. But again, my parents just say his autism is making it difficult to understand that his sudden change in behavior is off-putting, and he's getting over a harmless crush. Either way, I feel unsafe at times, and I want to hear some advice from you guys as to what I should do. Advice from anyone on the spectrum would be especially appreciated, since I want to know if maybe I'm just misinterpreting his challenged social skills as something more concerning. Thank you so much. Update. Thank you all for the replies. You guys are so helpful and have helped me realize the danger I'm in. I want to believe this is the best case scenario, where he just doesn't realize his behavior is inappropriate. Logically, this is the most likely case, but I have to base my actions around a worst case scenario. My gut says something is very wrong. You guys are right that I need to listen to that. My safety has to take priority over his feelings, and I will be doing everything I can to avoid interactions with him. This weekend, he hasn't come up to me directly. He has, however, been coming outside at night after 2:30 a.m., searching the yard where I usually take my dog, and then going straight back inside, 2 nights in a row now, as caught multiple times by my camera. Don't know why else he would do this other than to look for me, and this makes me especially unnerved that he's only attempting that approach at night now, as if he's trying to catch me off guard. I called my parents and broke down crying after reading all the comments you guys left in this thread, and they're finally taking me seriously. My mom purchased me a stun gun, which I will not be going outside without. I'm also not leaving the house alone anymore at all, not even to take the trash out. My dog will be accompanying me for everything. I didn't mention it in my previous post, but my dog is a pit bull, and even though she's the sweetest and has never once been aggressive, she is fiercely loyal, and I believe she could do some serious damage if someone attacked me. I also put in contact alarms for my windows and got a better deadbolt for my door, and my partner has also offered to come stay with me to help keep me safe. He has never approached me when I'm not alone. So for everyone who's been concerned for my safety, thank you, and I hope that shows I'm taking serious steps to keep safe. This morning, I submitted a report to the school and explained the situation in depth, including sending them footage from my security camera of him following me and my dog outside late at night. I requested they keep my report anonymous. I asked them to do a mental welfare check on him and connect him with counseling resources. And as some of you have suggested, I'm asking them to call and remind him not to approach people late at night while they're on their own. Those were my only specific requests, but I told them I need intervention, and I need it now. I got a call back within a few hours and learned my case was fortunately assigned to a man who's worked with autistic adults for years prior to transferring to work at the university. So he's very understanding of the situation and why it's so complex, and will be working on connecting us with resources for his mental health and to point out which behaviors are appropriate, inappropriate. I'm hoping this is the best case scenario, and that this intervention will be positive. If it's not, however, then I will be asking the housing department to temporarily move me. I feel much better with the help and communication I'm getting from the school, but I will continue to treat this like I'm in very real danger, because I might be. This post blew up, so I will update it if something more substantial happens. But for now, the situation is reported and you can assume no news is good news. Am I the A for defending a bride who left her groom at the altar after learning of his alleged affair, causing family turmoil and accusations? Okay, so boom, me and my husband attended a wedding. It was his cousin/niece's wedding. I'm not sure how to describe the relationship, but they were close growing up. The wedding was a bit unique. There was a brunch before the actual ceremony with the bride and groom. Then for an hour the wedding party left to get ready while all the guests were still at brunch. Then the actual ceremony and the real reception was supposed to happen after. I thought everything was normal. At the brunch the couple looked happy and excited and a little nervous maybe. My husband had told me there had been a little drama leading up to the wedding because the groom's family insisted that the groom's ex should attend the wedding because they have a good relationship. The ex is an EMT and she apparently saved mother-in-law's life once. The bride didn't want the ex to attend, but she caved in. At the actual ceremony, as you might have guessed from the title, the bride never showed. After a few minutes of awkward silence with the music playing as we waited for the bride's father came and told everyone she left. Groom was crying. The mother-in-law was screaming it was such a huge mess. At the reception they basically just told people to take boxes of food so it didn't go to waste. Since a lot of family was in town for the wedding, the bride's side of the family was hosting a reunion. At the reunion, the bride said the reason she left the groom at the altar was because at the brunch the ex told her that she slept with the groom and apparently showed the bride a sex tape she made with the groom. Bride was distraught and left because she didn't want to marry a cheater. The groom's side of the family were slandering the bride on every social media platform possible. So the bride's side decided to fire back and they were publicly accusing the groom of cheating on her, and it was just a big shit storm. Groom comes to the bride's house to try and clear things up. So the groom didn't actually cheat on the bride. The sex tape was from years and years ago. The groom's appearance just hadn't changed that much, so the bride believed the ex when she said it was recent. The ex was just trying to break them up. The ex confessed to it too. To my surprise, instead of everyone being angry at the ex, everyone turned on the bride. Her family was pissed at her for wasting money, being gullible, not letting the groom defend himself first. Everyone was yelling at her. I thought it was crazy, so I spoke up in her defense. I would have believed it too if there was video evidence plus the fact that she was practically forced into the ex attending their wedding. Now the whole family is against me and the bride, and it's so awkward and everyone is acting cold. My husband is upset because she now feels like if someone accused him of cheating on me I'd just take their word for it, but I feel that's completely unfair. Mini update. Okay, so my hubby came back to the hotel room and I showed him a post because he knows I like using Reddit. I mentioned a specific comment to him where one Redditor asked me how we are sure the tape was old and that the groom and ex aren't just covering their affair up by lying and saying it's old. I told my husband, and at first he laughed, but he started to think about the whole situation, I guess. While hubby was still at the bride's house trying to help with the situation after I left, the environment was getting too much for me, so I went back to the hotel. The groom had been groveling to the bride. Even though he was exonerated by ex admitting it was fake, he was still being very apologetic, which threw my husband off a bit. Like, even though he maintained he didn't cheat. Instead of the husband being angry about being left at the altar and publicly humiliated, he seemed to just want wife to forgive him. I thought this would be normal because the groom probably feels horrible about allowing the ex to ruin the day and hurt the wife like that, but my husband said it was unusual behavior for the groom. Apparently the groom is the high horse type and he would never apologize for a mistake that wasn't his. Husband knows the groom better than me, so my husband thinks it's plausible that the groom did cheat by the way he's acting, but he's not going to bring it up because of how high tensions are, and it might just make things worse. I also explained how and why I felt like my husband was being unfair to me by saying he thinks I'd believe anyone who accused him of cheating on me. He apologized and told me he was just stressed out earlier and he feels like we wasted money on this trip and went to see our kid for days over this wedding that got blown up over a lie. Bride texted me thanking me for defending her. Most of the slandering social media posts were taken down. The ex posted on social media playing victim. Well, not really, but she's posting like heartbreak stuff and those fucking depressed Bart Simpson memes, at her big age. The groom's mother pulled up the bride's house after I left and was threatening to burn the place down, because she was mad the bride humiliated her son over a lie because it was such a huge wedding he had many co-workers and stuff there. I feel like I'm missing something, but I'm tired and it's been a long-ass day. Edit in question. A few people are saying I should show this post to the bride, but I'm a bit scared she won't react well to me putting her business online because I don't know her that well. But at the same time I feel like she might appreciate that most people are on her side. But also I don't really want her to see my conspiracy theory about how the husband actually cheated on her because there's no actual proof. Should I? We broke up just after a month of dating because my boyfriend gave me a very bad and sexist book. Now I'm happy with my same-age husband. I met my boyfriend in our master's program. We became friends over this past year and started dating and becoming serious shortly before I left the state for a summer internship. He gifted me a book to read, saying it was one he liked. It's A Spell for Chameleon, by Piers Anthony, a fantasy novel written several decades ago. I knew nothing about it prior, and began laughing at it 2 pages in because of how ridiculous the writing was, especially about women. We Skyped after I got through the first chapter, and I tried respectfully explaining my doubts about the book. He made a deal with me. Knowing I'm a big Harry Potter fan, he promised to give the HP series a chance, starting with Philosopher's Stone, if I gave his book a chance and kept reading. This rocked my world, and I had a sudden burst of motivation. I'm on chapter 3, and I cannot stand this book. It is one of the most sexist and misogynistic texts I've ever had to read, and it honestly makes me feel like crap. Not to mention it's just poorly written all around, painfully spoon-feeding obvious symbolism, and excessively throwing in fantasy creatures concepts that do nothing for the plot. The protagonist is a complete dillhole that I couldn't care less about, and as a reader, I don't want to follow him or anything in the fantasy world of Xanth. But of course, flat out telling my boyfriend those thoughts about a book he enjoys would be hurtful, and he has every right to have different preferences. I am shocked that he would recommend such a book to me though. He is a respectful and educated man, treating me very well and identifying as a proud feminist. This recommendation was out of left field. Does he not remember how hurtful the author's writing on women is? Did he read it at a young age and has since grown? I can't expect him to hold his end of the bargain and read Harry Potter, which is fine, especially if it means not having to put myself through Piers Anthony's excuse for writing ever again. I like my boyfriend a lot. How do I respectfully tell him why I cannot invest in this book anymore? It's important to me that he realizes the negative messages being suggested, but I want to do this without insulting his taste or making him feel at fault. TL Doctor, boyfriend gave me a book to read and I accepted. I think it's sexist and poorly written. How do I tell him that I cannot keep reading? Should I explain my concerns? Relevant comments. OP explains why the book is horrible. Example 1. I like beautiful girls, he said. And I like smart girls, but I don't trust the combination. I'd settle for an ordinary girl, except she'd get dull after a while. Sometimes I want to talk with someone intelligent, and sometimes I want to... He broke off. Her mind was like that of a child. It wasn't really right to impose such concepts on her. Example 2. That's the point, he said. I like variety. I would have trouble living with a stupid girl all the time, but you aren't stupid all the time. Ugliness is no good for all the time, but you aren't ugly all the time either. You are variety. And that is what I crave for the long-term relationship, and what no other girl can provide. Example 3. All women are the same inside. They differ only in appearance and talent. They all use men. Example 4. That whole rape trial in chapter 3. Example 5. Other girls manage to enhance their appearance by cosmetics or padding or specialized spells, but besides Sabrina all other females look somewhat artificial. She was no enemy. This was the PG-2 example I mentioned. Example 6. There was much more of her he longed to see, and to touch, but that could come only after marriage. She was that sort of girl, and it was part of her appeal. The girls who had it didn't need to put it on casual display. PG-3. Mikatoba. Oh good lord. I looked up the book and thought, this couldn't be that bad, could it? I guess it is that bad. Top comment. The first thing to ask is when he last read this book. If, like you said, he hasn't read it since adolescence, he may not remember how truly awful it is. If he's read it recently and still recommended it, well, I'd be totally honest about how I felt about it. But that's just me. You can certainly just tell him you gave it a fair shake, but it wasn't your cup of tea. Update. The post was locked shortly after I put it up, so I wasn't able to comment back to most of you. I went through every comment and took them all into consideration. Thank you all for your thoughts. We Skyped the other night and the topic came up. I started by saying I liked him a lot and really do appreciate how much he's willing to share with me. He caught on to where I was going with this and started laughing. Then I started laughing. And I realized how silly small of a thing this all was. I guess I didn't want to risk hurting his feelings. When the reason why I didn't like the book came up, I explained, and he totally understood. It's been at least a decade since he's read the book, and he can see where I would feel uncomfortable. He will still consider reading the first HP book, since I gave his book a chance. And being a single dad, his kids also like the series, so it would be a chance for him to connect more with them. I ended by saying that I hope this doesn't discourage him from sharing more things he likes. If anything, it encourages me to find more that you'll appreciate. Q heart flutters. TL.ER. Good talk, he's awesome. New update. Hi. I would reply to this under the username You Lazy Chick Bum. but it got locked a little over a year ago. Reddit banned me for sharing a mayor's office contact information law, and I created this one shortly after. It's hilarious this post is being shared because it's from such a different time in my life. Your instincts are right. This relationship only lasted a month after this post. I took an opportunity to live and study abroad for a few months, and it was clear that he didn't want anything that deep, dodged any conversation that required vulnerability, didn't like that I wasn't always 100% perky, etc. I also had a rough breakup before this and wasn't making the best judgment calls when it came to dating. I could have caught a few more things about him that give similar concerns now as this book recommendation then. So I called it off. Oh my god, then he suddenly wanted to make it work, and kept it up for over a year after the breakup. We weren't even together that long. He would text me as if we never ended, and I would shut it down. He eventually stopped, but I still get occasional notifications on LinkedIn that he viewed my profile. I'm now happily married to someone my age, not knocking appropriate relationships with age gaps. I'm good friends with a couple who are 12 years apart, but I dodged a bullet, folks. Thanks for giving me a good laugh with this flashback. My brother-in-law thinks I'm in love with him. He apologized for yesterday's jokes, explaining it's a habit when he avoids serious topics. Editor's note. In the original post, OP made a mistake of using two different names for one person in the posts. I am using the second name mentioned since it is used more frequently than the first name only used once. May 10th, 2023. Pretty much what the title says. I've never posted on here before, but I do like to read the stories sometimes. Let's call my sister Diana and her boyfriend Mike. I'm the youngest of my three siblings, Diana, and my brother, who we'll call Carlos. I came out as gay when I was 14, and my immediate family, my parents and siblings, were all supportive. My extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, and grandparents are less accepting, so I don't tend to be as out and open around them. I graduated high school and started college 2 years ago when I was 17. I go to the same college that my sister is doing grad school at, and to save costs, I've been staying with her and her then fiancé at their apartment. Mike had always been really nice, and I was happy that my sister was with a nice guy. My siblings and I have always been super close, and that closeness didn't go away when I started living with Diana, so I would often end up hanging out with them and their friends sometimes. The semester just ended for the two of us, and we all went home this weekend to stay with my parents. We had a big family dinner, during which Mike kept making little jokes about me liking older guys. My boyfriend is 23, and how he would try to keep me away from him and his buddies. Me and my siblings questioned him about these jokes he was making, until he finally stopped making them. That was last night. This morning, my siblings and my parents went on a hike, which is a family activity that we usually enjoy thanks to us living close to the woods. I slept in and no one wanted to bother me, so they went without me. I figured that everyone had gone, but when I was eating my cereal in the living room and watching TV, Mike came out of the kitchen and sat next to me. I was surprised to see him, as I figured that he would have gone on the hike, but I guess not. He started by apologizing for making fun of me and then said that it was just a nervous tic of his when he didn't want to talk about something serious. He said that it was wrong of him to joke about my crush on him. When I requested for clarification because I was so perplexed, he claimed to know about my secret crush on him. I asked him why he would think that, and he cited a few things that he took as me liking him. First of all, I would always hang out with him and Diana. Second one, that I chose to live with them instead of in a dorm. Third, that he barely knew my boyfriend. And last one, that I didn't bring my boyfriend to their wedding. I tried to tell him that he was insane and that none of that meant I liked him, and they all had real explanations, but he just insisted that I was just trying to cover up the fact that I was in love with him. That was a few hours ago. I haven't told anyone in my family this yet, and I didn't have lunch with my family since I've had plans to be out with high school friends all day. One friend suggested that I post this here, so I guess that's why I'm doing this. I'll be sure to update if anything serious happens. Thanks for reading, LOL. Small update. Not sure if I should have made this its own post, but if I should have, let me know. Hello everyone. I had no idea that this would take off the way it did. I have a bit of a small update. I spent the night at my friend's house last night. This was planned before any of this. This morning I woke up and saw all of your comments and speculations. I took some time to reflect on the two main possibilities that you all seem to have come up with. Either he's one of those straight guys that thinks that all gay guys are attracted to him, definitely met a few of those, or he likes me and is projecting it, or trying to make it sound like my idea. After thinking about it a lot, I think that it is more likely to be the second option. I am a person who really loves physical displays of affection, like hugs and cuddles and stuff. My siblings and I are super close like I said, so I was used to showing my affection this way. Looking back, I realized that Mike was more than willing to show affection this way, as my sister is the same. Mike and Diana had been dating since high school, but I only really got to know him in the last 2 years at college. He was always open to physical affection with me, right off the bat. There have been many comments that he has made that I took as harmless at the time, But now with the context, I realize there may have been clues. He would almost always ask me how he looked, like before he went out for the day, and would in turn compliment me back. I took things that he said as jokes, like when he told me that my ass looked good in an outfit, or he would tell me that I looked just like my sister, who is gorgeous. I always took this as him being nice, but now I'm not sure if that was his only intention. Anyway, to the actual update. This morning, I called for a sibling meeting at a diner that we like to go to. Sibling meetings are something that we've been doing since we were kids, where we'd talk about things like convincing our parents to get us a pet or splitting the household chores. We met at the diner for brunch, and my brother immediately went on and said how weird it was that Mike was making jokes about me. Diana said that he was still making jokes to her privately after dinner and that it wasn't the first time he had made those types of jokes. She said that she figured that he was one of those guys who thought that gay guys liked him, but then I told them about his apology yesterday morning and all the comments and other jokes he's made, and we all think it was pretty weird. I showed them my post and they briefly read through the comments as well. My sister said that she would talk to him about it and told me that no matter what happened, she would never hold anything against me or blame me for anything, so that was reassuring. We had food and I went back to my friend's house and my sister said she would let me know if anything happens. I also texted my boyfriend about all of this. Since he's British, there's a bit of a time difference, so he hasn't responded yet. I want to make sure he stays informed. Right now, I'm hanging out with my friends, watching them play a video game and pretending to know what's happening. LOL. I'll keep you all updated. Comments. First, by Mike's theory with every example he gave you, you also have a crush on your sister, so I might point that out to him unless you think he'd actually believe it. Second, did he stay behind in hopes of talking to you alone? Maybe the real issue is he has developed a crush on you. If he continues making jokes or whatnot, then I might consider saying something to your sister, but if it ends here, I would try to bring your BF around a little more. I don't even understand why he felt the need to bring it up to you. Kinda weird. Update, June 27th, 2024, 1 year and 1 month later. Hello everyone. I would first like to say thank you all for your support in the comments of my last post and in your guys' private messages to me. After the last mini update, I had logged off of Reddit and a lot of things have happened, so I honestly kind of forgot that I even had this account still. Coincidentally, I was on TikTok a while ago when I found one of those AI voice accounts that read Reddit stories over someone playing Minecraft parkour. Those types of videos are like weeds. Once you see one of them, your entire timeline gets flooded with them. Earlier today, a video with part of my Reddit post came across my FYP, and the comments were full of people asking if there were any updates. It has been over a year, and I'm so sorry for keeping you all in the dark. I saw that my last post was archived and nobody could comment on it, so I figured I should make a new post. For those of you who might be seeing me for the first time ever, I believe you can find my first post on my page. I would recommend reading that before you read this one. I would also like to issue a trigger warning for sexual assault. Now, onto the whole mess that was the past year for me. So the last time I updated y'all was in May of last year. Me and my siblings were all on summer break from college, and were home for the summer. So the day after I talked to my siblings at the diner, I returned home from my friend's house and everything seemed normal. My sister informed me that she had talked to her boyfriend, that he had seemed more receptive to her concerns, and he was a lot more calm towards me. He stayed with us until the end of that week, where no further incident occurred between us, before he left to go visit his own family. He's on the complete other side of the country as us. Shortly after he left, I noticed that my favorite pair of underwear was missing after doing a load of laundry. At the time, I chalked it up to being lost in the wash or maybe mixed up with someone else's clothes. They were a pair of pink briefs, which I find more comfortable for my body type than other forms of underwear, though they're unfortunately considered more sexy. I'm sure you can all understand what actually happened to them. My sister only stayed with us for 2 weeks, as her job was only allowing her so much time that she could be remote. From what I knew, her boyfriend had returned to our apartment around the same time as her. I stayed for the whole month, before I too had to return to the city our college is in because I had gotten a summer internship in that city. So I was back to staying with my sister and her boyfriend. A few weeks into that, my sister was out for the night because of her friend's bachelorette party, and her boyfriend was out at a bar with his friends, which left me alone in the apartment for the night. I had a movie night and went to bed early. I awoke in the middle of the night to my sister's boyfriend in my bed, touching me. When he noticed I was awake, he held me down and assaulted me. The whole time he was doing it, he was threatening my and my sister's lives, saying that if I told her, or anyone, he would kill both of us. My sister ended up staying the night at her friend's place, and her boyfriend assaulted me 2 more times before she came home. I was pretty broken by that point, and his threats against our lives were ringing in my ears all the time. This cycle continued, where my sister's boyfriend would act withdrawn from me when around others, especially my sister, then assault me whenever he could, threatening both of our lives if I ever spoke up. It's such a difficult thing to describe. The rational part of your brain tells you that it is just a manipulation tactic, that he was lying, and that I needed to speak up, but the irrational part of my brain was so scared. I don't know if that makes sense to you all. Maybe those of you who have been through a similar situation as me might understand it. I also began to change, my usually happy and bubbly personality changing to a more withdrawn, moody, almost depressed one. I took to wearing less revealing clothes, especially at home, think from tank tops and booty shorts to t-shirts and pants. A reminder that this was happening in summer, so my previous wardrobe was better for the weather. About 3 months later, in September, when I was back to school and done with the summer internship, my sister was doing laundry one day and decided to surprise me by doing mine too, because she's a sweetheart like that. She also decided to wash my sheets for me, and that's when she saw that there were blood stains on my sheets. This immediately raised concerns with her. So that day, when I came home from campus, I found my sister on the couch, with the sheet next to her. She tentatively asked me if I had been self-harming, as she herself had been through that struggle. She has scars on her thighs from doing it. She told me that my recent change of mood, and the fact that I had changed my wardrobe to be more covered up, especially my legs, had her worried. I told her I was not, but could offer no explanation as to why the sheets were bloody. It was then that I broke down and had a huge panic attack. My sister tried to calm me down at first, but when that didn't help, and I was still struggling, she decided to take me to the ER. The attack lasted for about 45 minutes, only going away when they gave me some sort of medication to help me calm down. Apologies, my memories from this particular part are a little spotty. Once I calmed down, I was allowed to stay in the hospital room for a little bit, and when it was eventually me and my sister, where I confessed it all to her. She was extremely comforting, and asked me when the last time he had assaulted me was. It was the night before, so she pressed the little doctor or nurse call thing, and told them that I was going to need a rape kit. For those of you who want the specifics of that process, please Google it. After that, I just wanted to go home. My sister took me, and left me in her car at first, then came out and ensured that her boyfriend was not there yet. She texted him and told him to not come home, as the two of us were really sick and we did not want to infect him. The next day, instead of going to our classes, she took me to our local police station to file a police report. This whole process was also long and laborious, and honestly my memory surrounding it all is kinda hazy. Something my therapist says can happen with traumatic experiences, but with the evidence found from the rape kit, and my testimony, he got a sentence of 4 years and a fine, and he has to register on the sex offender registry. I am doing much better now. My schooling was only a little bit affected, but nothing too bad, and I'm on summer break again. My sister and I are both close still. We are both in therapy, and I'm getting through things day by day. I am currently writing this from home, and I'm flying out to London next week to see my boyfriend. I will try to not forget this page again. Haha. Additional information from OP on how Mike was confronted. OP, yeah, so he was at a friend's place while we were at our apartment. My sister was still maintaining that we were sick. We told the police which friend he was likely to be staying with, and he was taken from there. Since I got the rape kit, they were able to get DNA from that, plus we submitted the sheets as evidence, and there was some DNA on there too. The police compared his DNA to the DNA found, and that was what nailed him as guilty. He maintained his innocence until his sentence was delivered. He threatened me when they were taking him out. OP shares details from Mike's family after they found out what happened and their reactions. OP. His family was a bit of a problem at first. His parents sort of had the "my son would never" attitude. They attended all of the court sessions, and as more and more of our evidence, DNA from the rape kit and the sheets, pictures of the bruises he left on me and of the sheets themselves, was shown, and at my testimony, they admonished him. They sent my sister a message apologizing for his actions and sending me their sympathies. He has a sister from what I know, but I haven't seen her. She might be estranged or have little contact based on what my sister has told me. Comments. First, I'm so heartbroken that this happened to you. I am so proud of you for coming forward. That is outrageously difficult and not something everyone is able to do. I'm so very thankful your sister listened, believed you and supported you. There are no words to adequately describe the strength and love you and your sister have shown. All my love. OP, thank you. I really wouldn't be anywhere without my sister. I had no idea of what to do or how to report it or anything. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Second, no the update I expected nor wanted, but I'm glad you got some form of justice. I really am praying for your recovery, honey. You didn't deserve that, and neither did your sister. I can only imagine how you feel, and I truly hope that you heal from all the hurt physically, mentally, and spiritually. Sending you and your sister so much love, PA. OP, thank you so much. I'm doing better every day. Smile. When my late husband's ex-wife passed away, I had to decide whether to adopt his children. We haven't seen each other in 2 years. Hello, I of course know how awful this sounds. But it is a recent development, and I'm unsure if I'm completely in the wrong. Before I married my husband, he had 3 children with his ex-wife who were 5 when we got married. His ex was still bitter. I say this in the most respectful way possible. But it's true, as they had only been divorced officially for a year. After that, custody was a big issue with us, with her and my husband fighting for full custody. Unfortunately, we only ended up getting weekends in the complete months of December and July while they were out of school. So it goes without saying I wasn't much of a mother figure to them rather than their father's wife. My husband passed away 2 years ago in an accident, and I haven't seen them aside from the funeral in all that time. His wife called me up sometime last month to reveal she's suffering from a terminal illness, a brain tumor, and that she was hoping I could take in the children after she passed. Both her and my husband's parents are far too old to even care for themselves completely. I still take his mother grocery shopping as she can't do it alone, and that there was no one else who would be able to care for and support the children in a proper way. She said her sister suffers from addiction, and I'm not sure if that could be something the state would consider if there was truly no one left. I told her I'd consider and needed to think it over and would call her in my mind. I feel that even though it's heartbreaking that she has to consider who will care for her children when she's dead so soon, but I'm not sold, and I don't want to jump in with full custody of 3 children who I haven't seen in 2 years. OP adds more information in the comments. For people who thought it was relevant. We were married for 5 years and together for 6. The kids are now 10, 14. No, we never got around to having kids of our own, and I still don't have any. Their mother never remarried. I do passively for myself, but could reasonably support the 3 of them provided we all make sacrifices and their mother or the state helps supplement the income either with her life insurance or some type of aid. The biggest issue I have with myself being THE is the commitment. These are little people who my husband loved dearly, but at the same time I barely know. I've always thought I was a decent person, but my extreme hesitation make me think otherwise. Update: I want to thank everyone for their condolences for my husband and the life he lost. I wasn't sure if it was my right to update this, as I'm sure I made a decision most people would think me awful for. But at this point it's more of a releasing of feelings off my chest. As you know, my husband's ex is ill, and I still feel for her greatly with much sympathy and will pray for her and her children. But it's been a very long time since I was in any way a parent to them. Even as a stepmother, most of their care went to my husband. I just don't feel I could properly care for them and myself in my life. I told her this, and I feel awful that I made her react the way she did, crying and coughing. There was so much guilt, I felt it was awful. But I think I have always known my decision, that I wasn't going to take in the children. I just didn't want to acknowledge it because it made me feel awful. I wish I could tell you where she decided they're going, but after our meeting where I told her my decision, it's been radio silence. As much as I would like to say they're going to people who are perfect and they'll be fine, I don't know. And their mother doesn't owe me an explanation. But I do wish them and her the best, and in the best case scenario I pray for her health. My husband's sister died from falling down the stairs 6 months ago. Now my husband has suddenly and baselessly accused me of killing her. This is long and ridiculous. Sorry. My 30 husband, Luke, 33, had a sister, Laura, 29. We were all close and saw each other 2-3 times a month, along with their parents. Almost 6 months ago, Laura fell down the stairs at their family home and died. It was a freak accident. There's a window on the half landing and she hit her head on the sill. I was the last person to see her. I was there for less than 10 minutes and she was in her pajamas making coffee. I didn't even stay for a drink, and I struggle with how such a brief and meaningless interaction could have been her last. She deserved so much more. My husband and I have only been married for a year, but we've been together for 4 and have known each other for 20 plus. When Laura's parents found her, they called my husband straight away and we rushed over. We faced the whole thing as a family. In the days after, Luke started quizzing me. Exactly what we talked about. What she was wearing, where we were standing, etc. It progressed to saying I was providing conflicting information on tiny details he was deliberately misunderstanding, and accusing me of withholding information because I couldn't tell him things like what pajamas she was wearing. This escalated quickly but lasted for less than a week, as I lost my cool and made it clear that I was done answering questions. He didn't bring it up again, and I wrote it off as a grief quirk. His behavior was generally that of a normal, grieving person. Last Friday, he outright accused me of murdering her, in front of his parents. Out of the blue. We were all stunned. There was an inquest which recently concluded, and there was never any doubt the verdict would be accidental death. He said it was completely obvious and he couldn't believe that no one else could see it. He claims I went through his phone and found his messages with Laura. I have absolutely no idea what messages he's talking about. I have never looked at his phone, and that I went over to confront her and things got out of hand, and I pushed her downstairs. By the end he was shouting about going to the police and getting the inquest overturned, and how I wasn't going to get away with it. Let me be clear, Laura and I had a great relationship. We all did. I have no idea where this has come from, other than these messages I haven't seen, and even then, I don't think there's anything I could ever see on someone's phone that would drive me to murder. It's just ridiculous. He's been with his parents since this happened and will not talk to me at all. I've had some contact with his mom, but she's not being very communicative. The last I heard, she didn't know what messages he was referring to either. I am still completely stunned and I have no idea how to proceed. I made a commitment to be there for him always, and I understand that grief can manifest in strange ways, but part of me feels like my love for him died the second he called me a murderer, and I don't know how we could possibly work through this. I also really don't want to be thought of in this way, and I have no idea if he has said anything to people we know. I obviously haven't. A brain tumor or psychotic break has crossed my mind, and I suggested it to his mother, and she just said she'll talk to him. Other than the questions before, he hasn't been acting odd. Obviously he's been grieving, but he's seemed sane and sensible other than this. I feel like I'm going mad. Does anyone have any advice at all? TL Doctor, my husband's sister died in a horrible accident, and my husband, for absolutely no reason other than some mystery messages, thinks I murdered her? Edit. It has come to my attention that I accidentally used Laura's real name once in this post. Can I kindly ask anyone who commented who is real name? Delete their comment, as I really don't want this to bleed into my real life. For obvious reasons. Relevant comments. Moral_tech. Fuck no, you don't salvage this. You get a lawyer and get the fuck out. Best case scenario, he has just admitted to sending messages with his sister that he thinks would make you angry enough to kill her over them. I have some ideas about what those might be, and they're all bad. How did the parents react when he did this? OP, when he first laid out the accusation, at his parents' house, both his mother and I just kept asking him about the messages, and all he would say was that I know exactly what messages he was talking about. She was as stunned as me, and his father just said he didn't understand what he was talking about. He's a man of few words, but there was plenty of head shaking. The whole thing was surreal, no one knew how to react. I honestly don't know what kind of lawyer I would even speak to about this. From what I'm aware, the coroner's decision can't be appealed, and the police can't launch an investigation into an accidental death. I don't think I'm quite ready for divorce. We haven't spoken since his accusation, and I walked out about 5 minutes after he threw it out, and I have no idea what his frame of mind is. Wonderful Prior 381. You need to get a lawyer to protect yourself in case he does go to the police. I would write down everything that you can remember that happened that day and keep it just in case. He may be having a psychotic break. As stated, don't talk to him or his immediate family or your friends without someone present, or preferably by text or email. Save everything. You need to take his accusations seriously and cover your ass. OP, I was interviewed by the coroner's office after her death, as I was the last person to see her. She died about 3 hours after I saw her, and I'd been to the supermarket and was home by that point. It's all verifiable and was a recorded interview. I haven't spoken to anyone but his mother, and that's only been over messages. She's never been a big texter, but she has seemed very cagey over the past few days. I don't know if this means she's seen the messages. I've asked and been ignored. Gwilsh is good. I think they mean to record everything you remember about the day your soon-to-be ex accused you of murder. OP, I'm feeling so freaked out at the idea that he came up with this almost immediately after her death, and has either been sitting on it or planning his confrontation, that I'm basically trying to dissect the past 6 months. Maybe it's time I start writing things down. Right until it happened, things felt very normal. Obviously her death has been felt deeply by all of us, and things aren't anything like they were, but there have been no signs of anything like this, even on the day. OP on getting the messages. I'm absolutely desperate to see these messages, because I'm right there with you on the sheer wackiness of what they have to contain. It hadn't occurred to me that they might not exist. I've never known him to lie, but I do think a mental health issue is a real possibility. His relationship with his sister didn't seem odd, and I've never been interested in his phone, but he's never been defensive about it either, so I think you might be right. If I had such incriminating messages, I'd probably worry about them before now. When told to find an old iPad to use to access them, I have his iCloud password. It has a backup from yesterday. I have no idea how to turn this into something I can actually use. It doesn't have a messages folder or any signs of how to use it for anything other than restoring a whole phone, which I don't want to do. Does anyone know how to actually get the messages from this? Sorry to throw a tech support request in. I can't believe I didn't think of this. Huge thanks to the person who suggested it. Update 1. I'm in a bizarre and complex situation with my husband. I have broken the law, and I feel I have no choice but to do so again for my safety. I don't know what type of solicitor I need or what the next steps should look like. We're in England, and I'll try not to editorialize too much. My husband's sister died suddenly at the start of the year. Her death was an accident, and there was no suggestion to the contrary. The inquest was recently concluded and a verdict of accidental death returned. I was the last person to see her, but her time of death, which was almost immediate due to her injury, was confirmed to be hours after I had left the house. All of this was verified at the time. In the immediate aftermath, my husband behaved strangely and kept trying to trip up my story of the last time we saw each other, which was a brief interaction. Last week, months after this was first and last mentioned, he outright accused me of murder, in front of his parents. He says I saw his messages with his sister and confronted her, and that he's going to have the coroner's decision overturned and have the police investigate. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Today is day 9. I posted for advice on Reddit. I'm pretty desperate at this point, and it has spooked me, quite reasonably I think, but also led to me committing a crime and planning another. My husband's iCloud credentials were saved on an old iPad in his office, and I downloaded his backup last night. I have read all of his messages with his sister, and there is absolutely nothing like he describes. I understand this is illegal and I'm concerned about the possible ramifications. I am also waiting for a callback from a locksmith to change the locks on the home we own together, which I believe is also against the law. So this leads to my actual questions. I feel justified in what I've done for my safety, but is there a degree of pragmatism under the law for these issues because of the situation? Or am I shooting myself in the foot? I am resigned to the fact my relationship is over, but his parents don't seem to be taking this seriously and they're icing me out. I believe this is a serious mental health issue which may put people, namely me, at risk. Can I do anything about this when all I have is the fact I'm being accused of murder? I feel he needs to be detained and this should be investigated as a full-blown psychotic break. Sorry, this is all a bit mental. In addition, what type of solicitor do I need? My understanding is that a coroner decision can't be appealed. Is that correct? Are his accusations going to go anywhere? Can I protect myself from this or stop him escalating to telling others? We live in our hometown and everyone knows everyone. This could follow me forever and it's either a lie or a delusion. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Relevant comments when told OP can't lock out her husband or force him to get a psych eval. OP. Thank you so much for your response. Locking each other out doesn't sound like a pattern I want to get into, but I think I'll go ahead and change them once on the basis that it isn't you did this so you have to leave the house, and also you'll be prosecuted. Levels of seriousness. In terms of him being deemed to lack capacity, is there any way I can trigger the process that you know of? Is something like this sufficient for the Mental Health Act to kick in? I've been Googling and you can be detained if professionals think your mental health puts you or others at risk, and you need to be in hospital. Seems very vague. Obviously I'm biased, but accusing someone of murder and screaming about how they aren't going to get away with it feels like risky behavior. Does he need to have made explicit threats or is there a clearer bar to meet? Sorry for asking so many questions. No firefighter, 9257. You are jumping ahead of yourself and playing out situations that have not occurred. If your husband reports you to the police for accessing his data and you are subsequently arrested or taken in for questioning, then obtain the services of a criminal solicitor for advice. With respect of changing locks, ending your marriage, seek a solicitor that deals with family law divorce. If you feel that you are at risk from your husband, talk to a domestic abuse helpline. If you feel you're at an immediate risk of harm, then call the police. If you think your husband is mentally ill and presents a risk to himself or others, call the police. OP. I don't think that's a fair assessment. Being accused of arguably the most serious crime to exist has most definitely occurred. My understanding of the law is that something is illegal whether you're reported to the police or not. Those messages are evidence, as far as I'm concerned, that his accusations are false. They were apparently the trigger to me literally murdering someone I was extremely close to. I have illegally accessed them, and I don't think it's unreasonable to inquire as to the potential impact of that. I am fully aware that I need a solicitor, but as you're probably aware, today is Sunday. I don't know if I need to seek someone out based on a divorce, which honestly, if this is a mental health issue, is not going to be something I go for, or a criminal solicitor, or someone who deals with the Mental Health Act, as my absolute priority preference is getting him assessed. My only exposure to the legal system in my entire life was through the inquest, and that is obviously completely different to any of this. I'm not educated in this area. Commenter. It's sad and slightly suspicious that OP is jumping ahead to mental health assessments to defend themselves from accusations of murder when their husband is clearly going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. OP, what else can I do? He has blocked me everywhere, and we went from a normal couple dealing with the new normal 6 months after the death of his sister, to me being accused of murder over a family dinner because of messages which clearly don't exist, and it's been 9 days and I've heard nothing since. Can I remind you that the inquest was held and concluded? I dropped off some Tupperware, grabbed an umbrella I'd left behind the previous week, went to a big Tesco, then went home and called my mom. I was already home by the time she died, and my whereabouts were extremely easy to verify because my husband was home all day. It's obvious that he's going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. That is the exact point of all of this. Update 2. Firstly, thank you to those who helped me get to my husband's iCloud backups through an old iPad. I wasn't expecting much from Reddit, but I got valuable practical advice before my post was locked, and I appreciate it. There were no crazy, or even suspicious messages. I've searched for over 100 terms and scrolled back over the years. I saw a side of them both I wasn't expecting, but nothing that explains the claim I murdered Laura over their chats. Nothing to suggest he was cheating. Absolutely nothing to suggest incest. I repeat, no incest. No weird gaps where deleted conversations or a switch to another app would fit. Just siblings making plans, sending memes, and gossiping. They said unexpectedly horrible stuff about a few people, but not me. It was a sort of relief, but it raised more questions than it answered. I sought legal advice, also from Reddit, after posting here. Turns out my options are divorce him or sit down. I contacted my community mental health team, who said they'd reach out, but made it clear it wasn't urgent. I then called his mom and said that if I didn't hear from him by this weekend, I would get a solicitor and ask for a mental health assessment as part of the divorce. In response, he made a ridiculous post to Facebook, which neither of us have used in years, and everything blew up. I'm going to try to keep this succinct. On Friday night, he made a long accusation on Facebook, with new information. He said he'd been planning to leave me for months with his sister's support, and I found the messages, and murdered her. The coroner has reopened the case and the police are preparing to arrest me, and he needs to make sure people know before the trial stops him talking about it. It was well written and seemed vaguely plausible. He messaged people with links so it got some attention. We live in our hometown, and have a large circle of friends because we've been here all our lives. People I haven't spoken to since school were reaching out to me asking WTF was going on. It was madness. In response, I posted the export of his entire conversation history with Laura, also to Facebook, when I finally got back in. I linked to the chat along with a post explaining my side, and noting that I had changed my ex's iCloud and Apple passwords, and that if he wanted them back, he should comment on my post and update his own, admitting that he was lying. He eventually did. When I started getting messages about his post, I panicked, and changing his password seemed important to preserve everything because he'd know I had access. When I spoke to him the next morning, it's clear he's not having a mental episode at all, but is claiming one because he's been caught in a big lie. As soon as he was outed, he called me, clearly drunk, begging and promising to explain everything if I deleted my post. I hung up and told him to call back the next day. He did, after many missed calls and texts, and he tried to bargain and guilt-trip me with his mental health until it was clear the wrong people had seen his conversation. It's hard to describe, but it seemed fake. It was too well rehearsed, and then this morning, when it was clear he was getting nowhere, he blocked me. Begging for mercy and reciting facts about mental disorders doesn't align with someone in crisis with a sincere belief that someone murdered their sibling. The question of why he did all this remains unanswered, and he will not be getting his passwords until it is. The legal advice subreddit said this stuff is technically illegal, but it's beneath a court to take action, so I'm going to count on that because I felt like I had no other choice at the time, and now I don't see any other way to get answers from him. I am desperate and it's all I've got. So there we are. The relationship I have believed was my destiny since I was a teenager has boiled down to petty, convoluted and vindictive bullshit, played out on social media for reasons still unknown. My hope for a brain tumor is fading, and clearly tomorrow morning is going to be when I lawyer up and stop posting about this. I am mortified. I have no idea whether some people might believe him, and I still don't know why this all happened in the first place. Sorry I don't have a happier update, and thanks once again to everyone who offered advice. Would either the A for telling my boyfriend his support for Trump, a racist and homophobic convicted felon, gives me the ick and makes me question us? Original post July 24th, 2024. Hello everyone, I am using a new account because I prefer to keep this anonymous. I am 20 years old and started dating my boyfriend, who is 21 years old, about 2 months ago. We have known each other for approximately 3 years. Initially we were not interested in dating, but it happened naturally, and everything has been going well except for one issue. I recently discovered that he is a Trump supporter. Before anyone lectures me about not letting politics affect my relationship, please hear me out. There have been a few things about his political views that have really bothered me. For context, I am a Hispanic female immigrant who fled from a country that went through severe turmoil. I have had nothing but negative experiences with Trump supporters. Almost every time, without fail, they have said or done something extremely demeaning to me or my family, such as talking about deporting people like us, calling us a threat to the country, slut-shaming and other derogatory comments. I am the kind of person who judges others based on their beliefs, and I have learned that people with these views are not the type of individuals I want to be around. When Trump was convicted, my boyfriend and I discussed politics. He argued that Trump was not really a felon, claiming the courts were unfair, biased, and that Trump did not receive a fair trial. Although this is not his exact wording, it captures the essence of his argument when I told him that Trump was now a felon. When we were watching The Boys, Season 4, there was a scene where an old man explained to Newman that women can reject pregnancies. My boyfriend agreed with that old man. When I explained to him that this is not how women's bodies work, he apologized to me. However, I was still absolutely shocked that he did not understand such a basic thing about women, especially since he has a sister, so it's not like he grew up without women in his life. We also had a conversation about immigration, and he stated that all immigrants should be immediately deported. I told him that my family and I are immigrants and asked if he meant us as well. He responded, "But you guys are legal. I'm talking about the illegal ones." I explained that this type of rhetoric makes me feel unsafe, and the conversation ended there. During another discussion about the Trump-Epstein relationship, he claimed it was all a conspiracy, and that Trump is not the type of person to be involved in such things. I brought up multiple examples of Trump's predatory behavior, such as the pussy grabber incident, his heckling of a 10-year-old, his creepy comments about his daughter, and the flight logs. I argued that, while guilt by association is not a valid judgment, Trump's history of predatory actions makes the allegations seem more plausible. He insisted that Trump never did any of that. This conversation was particularly distressing for me because I am a victim of sexual assault. The troubling thought crossed my mind that, if I were ever assaulted again, my boyfriend might not even believe me. His support for someone I consider a rapist implies that he condones Trump's actions and, by extension, the actions of the man who assaulted me. I struggle to understand how someone who grew up with women, has a girlfriend who is Hispanic and an immigrant, and has LGBTQ+ friends can stand by such views. It makes me wonder if there is a side of him that he has not revealed to me yet, which makes me extremely uncomfortable given that this is a new relationship. I am asking if I would be the A for telling him that his views give me the ick, because my own family advises against letting politics interfere with my relationship. They say, Trump wants people to fight each other, and I shouldn't let Trump win, but I really don't know. Can I get some advice? Relevant comments. Comment. Not the A. He may be speaking out of brainwashed ignorance, but even after offering your perspective, he tells you that you're wrong. If you stay with him, you will never stop having to educate this guy, and he doesn't really want to be educated. OP. Yeah, I can agree with that. Every time I invite him to do his own research, he'll always pull up a pro-Trump article and use it as evidence that I'm wrong, or ask me multiple times where I'm getting my resources until I doubt myself. He's been asking me to promise that we wouldn't let our differences in beliefs cause problems in our relationship, and I feel like I'm being babied a bit. It's been really stressing me out. Because aside from that, he's really nice to me, and a lot of my family is excited about meeting him, and his family. Breaking up with him after I just announced I was dating him would cause even more problems for me. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that it will probably be for the better. I think I'm okay with carrying through with it. I'll talk to him when I see him later. I'm not really excited about it because we go to the same school. Update July 29th, 2024. Hello everyone. Here is an update. I did not expect my last post to get so much attention, or for people to tell me that this is a justifiable reason for ending a relationship. So thank you for not being judgmental. Many people were asking about the country my family came from, so I will share it since I do not think it is identifiable information. It is Venezuela. If you are not aware of what is happening there, then I envy you. Also, a shout out to those people who thought this was AI generated. I find it kind of sad that this has become the state of Reddit now. If you think something is AI, just do not engage with it. That is what people who post AI content want from you. Do not let them win. Now, on to the update. I spent the last couple of days with my dad, who was visiting me, and deleting social media and muting a bunch of politics-related stuff because I've come to realize that regularly listening to people talk about how people like me ruin the country and how we don't belong here isn't really good for my mental health. And neither is dating someone who openly admits to supporting that group. I spoke with my now ex-boyfriend. I went to his room instead of inviting him to mine because I knew that if I let him in my room, he would refuse to leave until he convinced me to stay. I wanted to have the option to remove myself from the situation at any time, as we live in a college dorm. Firstly, I should mention that on the day I made my first post, I told him that his support for a known rapist was hurtful to me. I explained that tolerating such behavior makes me question if he is also tolerant of the person who assaulted me, which makes me see him differently. He responded with a lengthy text message, expressing that my words hurt his feelings and that he does care about my experience with sexual assault. However, I found it hard to understand how he could say that while supporting someone who boasts about sexual assault. The essence of his message was, I feel terrible that you see me as the type of person who'd be okay with rape, because I'm not okay with it. I acknowledged that I might have been wrong to say that, so I began our conversation by apologizing to him. I then told him that I wanted to end our relationship and go back to being friends, although I did not really mean the friends part. It is unrealistic to maintain a friendship with someone who affiliates with a group that regularly disrespects me. He tried to convince me to stay by saying that he really loved me and cared about me and respected my opinions. That we shouldn't let politics get in the way of our relationship. I responded that I can't change what he believes, and that I value a person's beliefs and the group of people they associate with as a method of how I judge their character. I've already judged him. I don't like what I see, and therefore, I've lost my feelings for him. He told me I was making a generalization. I told him that while it is true that I might be making a generalization, we can't change the fact that in this landscape of politics, many of my rights are in the chopping block, and that I am already starting to resent him for not really feeling listened to when I try to talk about how anxious it's making me. He told me that none of that stuff is going to happen, and that our different opinions shouldn't get in the way of our relationship. That he's voting for Trump because he thinks he can fight inflation and cares about military members. I told him that while I can list a million reasons why that isn't true, that isn't relevant to the conversation. He then said that all his other relationships never consisted of talk about politics and that this was ridiculous. I pretty much told him that he can't have his cake and eat it. I can't date someone who associates with people who give me trouble, and that this won't be sustainable. Ending is better for the both of us. I realized that this conversation was going nowhere and decided to just leave. I told him to just give up on it already before leaving. He kept asking me to stay while he thought about what to say, but I didn't. I'm just done. I don't really feel sad. I feel so relieved. I'm going to leave social media for a while and just focus on myself for a while. I'm going to therapy too. I'll stick around to read your comments. IDK how much longer I'll be able to respond though. If I go radio silent, then just take that as a sign that I am no longer on this app. Have a nice day. Relevant comments. Commenter. You are not the A. You are not breaking up with him because he gives you the ick. His support of a racist and homophobic convicted felon does not align with your values. This is not a quirky little disagreement, like differing on a choice of music or which team to root for in a game. By the way, he may claim to have all these diverse friends, but I can assure you that they do not consider him their friend with views like this. Anyone in your family's opinion about your relationship does not matter here. They are not the ones dating him. You are. The fact that you pointed out to him how you are an immigrant too, and that does not seem to register with him at all, is telling. Honey, he is in a cult. There is no saving him. Original poster. You pretty much summed up my exact thoughts on why his gay friend does not want to hang out with him anymore. I recently found out that there is a bit of a rift in their relationship, and I did not even start thinking about why until I learned more about him. Gosh, everyone is burning bridges. Here's the thing, it is not about politics, it is about values. Although I dislike the term values, because religious people often use it to justify many negative things, it really does come down to what you value. Do you value kindness, respect, empathy, caring, and thoughtfulness? Or is your idea of values just rules to hate, be disrespectful, be judgmental, fulfill your ego, and feel self-righteous? We are all aware that the Republicans intentionally positioned themselves as the religious party in the 1980s to garner votes. Since then, some people cannot differentiate between politics, religion, and personal values. Your boyfriend may not be religious, but he is clearly influenced by whatever ideology he is drawn into. As a human being, you have values that do not align with his. He may be a decent person, but he is currently parroting the media he consumes and does not have a mind of his own. So yes, you should distance yourself from him because this situation is a disaster. This is not about differing opinions like, I think we should spend less money on the military and more on infrastructure. It is about one group of people wanting to take away basic human rights from numerous other groups. It is about one group wanting to strip rights from anyone who does not look like them, act like them, or believe in the same God in the exact same way they do. Then the whole group lies about it, claiming it is not happening, that no rights have been taken away, when it clearly has happened, and more rights are being threatened every day. How any woman, person of color, anyone who identifies as LGBTQ, or anyone who knows anyone who identifies with any of those groups can support these people is beyond me. At this point, a person voting for Trump is not merely expressing their political interest. They are indicating a clear willingness to change their beliefs when they do not align with their actions. That type of person should always be seen as a huge red flag. If most people found out their candidate was a felon, they would change their actions, voting in support, to align with their beliefs, integrity, and character matter. However, when Trump supporters change their beliefs, our justice system is corrupted and its results cannot be trusted. To align with their support, they show a kind of moral flexibility that makes a person very difficult to trust. Even the most common reason for supporting him in my area, abortion, has required people to essentially believe, I hate abortion so much that I will accept any behavior from a politician as long as they oppose it. That belief would have seemed un-American 15 years ago, but it has become common now because of that moral flexibility. I reject that kind of cowardice from anyone of any political view. When your beliefs and actions do not align, change your actions. That is the thing, politics 12 years ago are not politics now. It is not about policy or inflation or any of that anymore. While these things do affect people, it is not the same as blatantly eviscerating someone's rights. For me and my family, it is not politics, it is our lives. Our ability to exist as a family unit, even my marriage. So no, I will not spend my time with someone who wants to threaten those things. I do not think it is petty or out of line to not want to spend time with someone who thinks my child should be taken away, my marriage invalidated, and my wife punished for being a trans person, among many other crimes against humanity. Side note, I do not think I even want to know what that punishment would be. I have not read about Project 2025 because I just cannot handle more stress. It is exactly this. If you want universal health care, more funding for public schools, free school lunches, and drug and mental health rehabilitation centers, you are probably not going to align well with a Republican as a dating partner. The same is true in reverse. If you're more interested in tax brackets, inflation, and overall economics, you're probably not going to mesh well with a Democratic partner. Even though Democrats have been outperforming Republicans in terms of economics for the past 20 years, the idea remains. People can be as upset as they want about being excluded from your dating profile just for being a Republican, but honestly, it is pretty straightforward. For me, it is simple. If you consider any woman, person of color, any non-Anglo, gay man, lesbian woman, someone who chooses not to identify or pick, immigrant, liberal, educated person, or student as lesser, then you need to leave. If you have an immediate opinion of a human being before having a conversation with them, based on any of these criteria or many others, you are probably a conservative and are unwelcome to waste my time. Am I the asshole for asking my husband to help our child while cooking for family? Relatives called me out for treating him like a servant. I, 30F, was assigned to cook for my husband's family during a week-long trip, 11 adults, 4 kids. I sat down to eat after cooking for a few hours and our child asked for a condiment and a drink. I asked my husband, 40s, if he'd mind getting it and he had no issue and got up. My meal and his aunt had a fit about this and said, why am I treating him like a servant? I could get up and take care of it so my husband could relax. He had been all day. They've been cold and mean and not speaking to me. I'm wondering if I should have done it myself or if I should just ask my husband if we can go home. I've got 4 days left. Relevant comments. Top comment. The reason OOP is voted info. Please explain how you were assigned to cook. Nobody except my supervisor assigns me to do anything, and I still have the option of saying no, though there could be consequences. In what way were you making your husband do anything? He could have said, no. OP, sorry I tried to make the post short. His aunt rented an Airbnb. We paid it back. I'm a really good cook and his family loved my cooking, so it was my night to do the cooking. All the women were assigned a night. Commenter, are your mill and his aunt typically set in traditional gender roles? Why in the world would getting the condiment and drink make him a servant and not you? Also, do you have to cook all week or was this just your night? NTA, but if you ask to go home, you'll really turn this into something big. OP, more info. I tried to make it short in the op. This was just my night to cook. But it is all the women that are cooking. His aunt is a single mother and her sons have never been taught to cook and their girlfriend's idea of cooking is PBJ. She said the chores as this was her idea and she paid for it. We all sent the money to her. I just feel so low. I'm stuck in this tiny bedroom, smallest in the Airbnb BTW, and being the only married couple kind of felt like a slight, while everyone outside is relaxing. Husband was hanging with me but his mother asked to speak with him. It's been an hour. I tried to go out but they all got silent and quiet and just stared at me till I went inside. Commenter, that sucks. Did your husband stick up for you? Or offer to help you cook? OP. He did stick up for me and say it's no big deal, but his aunt was yelling at him to sit down and his mother just glared at me. I love my husband to death. He's good at a great many things, but I didn't feel like getting food poisoning tonight. Tensions already seemed really high as I took the boat out and I was wearing an appropriate 2-piece. Think sports bra kind of bathing suit with long sleeves and swimming shorts. But his aunt called me a hussy and only little girls wear 2 pieces and I need to respect the PPL around me. Commenter, are the other people in the larger bedrooms there alone, while the 2 of you have to share the smallest? OP, it's a 6-bedroom house. Only one other family member brought their partner. But they all brought their kids. His mom originally wanted us to have a different room but his aunt refused. She's like the family bully, is what I'm guessing. Husband came back and we are talking about what went down. We'll update, edit. So his aunt arranged the Airbnb, she assigned the rooms and the chores. She has made other comments to me on this trip that have made me feel bad about myself. Husband just came in after being outside talking with his family for the last hour and he won't go into details but said that we will be staying, but if they say one more comment or if I feel any more discomfort we will be leaving. We want to stay as we have some fun events that we don't want our child missing out on tomorrow and Monday. Relevant comments. Commenter, NTA. If they're not speaking to you, Just consider that a bonus. I wouldn't want to hear anything assholes like that have to say anyway. If you really want to get a dig in though, you could say to them, if I knew that's all I had to do to get you two to shut your yapping cakeholes, I would have done it sooner. OP, that's kinda my plan. Just avoid and do our own thing the best we can. He didn't say much, but that his aunt doesn't want her son's GF to think she can boss him around like I do my husband. Sexist, right? He said that this will be the last time he makes me suffer going on a vacation with them and will take me to some tropical island next year to make up for it. Commenter, I just read your edit and I agree with the idea of staying so your kid doesn't miss out on fun, but what the hell is this? He won't go into details but said that we will be staying. OP. He told me some of the brief details but didn't want to repeat the sexist and rude comments his aunt made while his mother just stayed quiet. He did tell me that his aunt didn't want her son's GF to think that they could boss her son around like I do my husband or to dress inappropriately like myself. I've got a lot of insecurities about my body image and he tries to protect me. I'm 5'2", 110 pounds and worked hard to lose a lot of baby weight, so I was proud and thought wearing an appropriate, very covered, two-piece would be okay. I was called a hussy. Update. So this morning while getting ready the cousin's GF came and spoke to me and said that what they said was completely wrong and disrespectful and that she doesn't believe what they said about me. Made me very happy. Anyway, as we were heading out to go hiking, his aunt couldn't help herself I guess and said at least I don't look like I belong on a pole like I did yesterday. My 5-year-old yelled at her and said to stop being mean to my mommy before we could say anything. My husband had a few choice words for her in front of everyone. So anyway, we are driving home. Relevant comments. Commenter. So what treats will the kiddo be getting for defending mom? Seems like you're doing a good job there and have good backup from your spouse. OP. We are taking him out to his favorite restaurant for dinner once we get back into town and to his favorite ice cream shop to have a sundae. My husband really went for the kill after his aunt's comment cause I was lacing up my hiking boots. He had our son go up to the room and get his bag and bent down to help lace up my boot for me. He then told his aunt that I am his partner, not his maid or servant, and that she was a jealous witch that attacks me because she wishes she looked as good as I did, and that he was lucky to have a hard-working wife and mother to his child who also looked amazing. That we do things for each other as a team and that she is just a miserable old witch and we wouldn't be seeing them again. They've been blowing up his phone but he turned it off. OP follows up with, I won't say we are perfect or never have fights or innocent spats over the most silly things. But one thing is for sure, after 15 years we won't let each other be disrespected and we always have each other's backs. That is what we are hoping to teach our son. That even though things may get rough in life, we handle them with grace and respect and always have each other. I discovered my stepmom's Reddit account and was shocked to find out how much she hates me and my siblings. I'm really pissed off and want to vent. I even cried reading the things she said and I don't know what to do. I don't need any advice, I just want to vent. My father has been married to my stepmother for 5 years. He has been divorced from my mother since my younger brother was 2 years old. There's no beef between them and they have a great co-parenting. I have a 17-year-old sister, a 16-year-old brother, and I'm 25. Then my father has a 3-year-old son with my stepmother. I found her Reddit account in a pretty random way. Since I'm only home on the weekends, I let her use my computer. She forgot to close her email because I was able to come home during the week. She doesn't post too much but she comments too much. I was honestly going to close the email but it caught my attention that all the replies were from a step-parent subreddit, so curiosity won me over. I know, it's not a good thing to do and curiosity killed the cat. The first thing I saw was her last post in which she detailed things about my life in a random Reddit sub, criticizing my decisions and even lying to get people to support her. She has posts on that site talking about how happy she feels when my siblings are not at home. My sister adores her, but she has comments talking about how she can't wait for them to turn 18 and leave the house because she just wants to share the house with her family. My father and her toddler, it seems that she doesn't see us as her family. She has a lot of comments answering other people that it's totally okay to not love your stepchildren because they're not family and it's okay not to consider them one. She has comments talking about how much it bothers her when my dad and brother have sleepovers. They just watch a series in the playroom and then go to sleep, as she is tired of hearing the laughter of a teenager and can't wait until we all leave the house so my father can be with his real family. But what she hates the most is having to learn sign language for my little sister. It had always seemed strange to me that SM still struggles with sign language, but now I know that she never really put in the effort to learn. My sister always said that for many people sign language is very difficult, so I never said anything. But now I know that she always found stupid to learn how to communicate with my sister when my sister always tried to help her. I was too surprised by the hatred she has when my father spends time with me and my sister. Her jealousy towards us is so obvious that it disgusts me that there were so many people who told her how they feel the same way about their SDs. To the point of sexualizing things by saying too many disgusting things that I don't even want to say here. My siblings are not problem children, they even love her very much, and what fills me with anger the most is that she is so false in front of us. Do you know the number of times I offered to babysit my half-brother so she and my dad can go on a date? All those times she refused to let me take care of him, but now I saw comments that she left about how I am living at my father's house and I don't help her at all. Only for other people to respond saying that she should give my father an ultimatum to make me leave because I'm too old to live with him and he has a new family. I cook my food, do my laundry, I help my father pay the bills while she doesn't, and normally only come home on the weekends because I'm doing a police academy almost full week. I don't even care if I'm making it too obvious who I am. It was my father who told me to move back with him so that when I come back from the academy on Friday nights it will be a shorter trip. She sexualizes my interactions with my father, saying that it is not normal for me to sleep a nap hugging him and that I should know my place. He is my father. What the hell wrong with her? I'm so disgusted. I have the comments. I have the post. I have even comments from years ago and I will use them. I don't care. Comments. Comment 1. Show dad her posts. Comment 2. This, show your father what she really thinks of you all, because once you're all eventually out and she gets her wish, she's going to work double time to keep it that way and isolate him. Update 1. I decided to delete the post because for now I can't tell anyone what happened because I'll basically be locked up in the academy until Friday morning. In fact, I shouldn't even be using my cell phone now. Someone with too much free time shared the situation in that sub of step-parents to warn my SM. I have screenshots of everything, including a video showing that it is her email and showing the comments. If she sees that post, what will she do? Delete the account? I already have the proof. But I don't want my siblings to find out before I tell them, and I know that those types of posts usually end up in those TikTok that re-upload posts without permission, so I prefer to delete the post so that it doesn't stand out even more. Although my siblings don't use Reddit or that kind of content. I'm going to post again in that sub when I talk about everything with my family, so I hope Redditors know how to keep the secret of the post for now. I know they won't, ha ha ha. Being a stepmom is hard. Yes, one thing is feeling that you're having a hard time, and another totally different thing is making a post saying that you hate it when your stepdaughter is around her father because you think she's going to fuck him, TF. It is not the same to say being a step-parent is stressful, than to say honestly learning SL is unnecessary. BC when the girl turns 18 I will not see her again, it is a waste of time since she can read lips. Also some people complained about me hugging my dad. I also took a nap hugging my mother or my siblings. I'm sorry for having a family that loves me and are not perverts who see a hug as something sexual. Probably next week I will be able to maybe give an update. The academy keeps me working almost all day. Comments. Comment 1. It's already on TikTok. That's how I found this post OP. I hope that for now it does not appear in my siblings FYP. Comment 2. As soon as it's posted on Boru, it's on TikTok. Update 2. Hi. For now I'm going to post this little update here since I haven't spoken to my father yet, but I spoke with my siblings and mom. I told my dad that I was staying at a friend's house when I left the academy, but I actually went to my mom's house and told her everything. She doesn't even know what Reddit is. That site isn't used too much here. But I translated the comments and posts for her. I showed her the videos and my mom was furious. I explained to her that in the comments BM, it's Madre Biologica. I was confused about it too the first time I read that, also with SM. So my SM also made comments and posts complaining about my mother, being that they have always had a cordial treatment. But still my SM was lying, saying that my mother was troublesome. No one in the comments said anything. Everyone supported her and they recommended that she should move far away with her legal family, far away from the problematic BM and kids. First we told my brother, who was also upset and said that she was a fake, but that he has seen her ignore my sister and pretend that she does not see or hear her a lot of times. He explained that like me it also seems strange to him that SM has not yet learned sign language. My siblings spent a lot of time at my father's house. Just like English or Spanish, sign language is much easier to learn if you live with someone who uses it every day. Therefore it is strange that SM doesn't use it. He said that even my father has offered to pay for her classes, but she says she doesn't have time. We asked him if he noticed any other behavior of that kind, and he said that SM doesn't let him take care of our younger brother, which she also does with me, but curiously she does let our sister take care of him, so I don't understand that. Other than that, she's never treated him badly or anything like that. At the time of telling my sister she was the most hurt, she cried especially because of SM's comments towards me, calling me a whore. It's kind of ironic how the comments towards her affected me and the comments towards me affected her. Haha. Something that my sister noticed that I didn't is that almost all of SM's comments are criticizing me, my sister, and even my mother. But my brother, she has only criticized sleepovers or when he comes back late from being with his friends. But she has criticized my and my sister's clothes, made up things about my life, confessed that she hates it when we hug our father. She said we're too clingy. She talked badly about my mother, etc. My sister said it's sexist and maybe she's got some mental problem. My sister said she always believed SM didn't really hear her and she maybe wasn't speaking well and didn't understand her. I think that's the shittiest thing of all. My sister's greatest pride is being able to pronounce some words no matter how short they are or if they sound like noise for some people. We understand her, but SM made her feel insecure every time she ignored her. I know that my sister always justified that by believing that it was her mistake and that SM made an effort to learn, but it was simply more difficult for her. But now we know that no, she was never interested in learning. I'm getting mad again as I write this, sorry. My mother said she was going to talk to both of them, mainly because even though it's an anonymous site, SM's way of expressing herself is sick and she's not going to let my siblings be around someone like that. Oh, but she's venting. Being a stepmom is lonely. I received comments like that. It's not the same to say I feel lonely and I feel stressed, than to say my stepdaughter behaves like a slut, just because me and my minor sister uses a bikini for the pool. Her account is old. She's been leaving comments like that for years. With lies, with complaints we never heard before. It's just messed up. We arranged that we're going to tell our father all together and show him everything, so we're probably going to tell him tomorrow because I need to leave for the academy on Monday. My SM account has not been deleted. It's crazy how she makes things up to get approval from strangers. At this point, I don't even know if she's crazy or a mythomaniac. I would like to go back to her email since the password is saved, but I don't know if she will receive a notification of that because this time I closed the account. Update 3. We talked to my father over the weekend. For now he is staying at my mother's house. It is a complicated situation since in the middle of everything is my half-sibling too. During the weekend I went to my father's house and the first thing I did was tell my stepmom separately that I've seen her Reddit account and I'm going to talk about it with my dad. She told me that I can't condemn her for something she uses as an intimate diary, but I told her that this is not a diary. It is a social network where she makes her problems and lies public. If someone other than me discovered her account, then what was going to happen? Were they going to believe all the things she invented? If her identity was revealed on that account by someone else, I would have too many problems and could even be kicked out of the academy. Again, there's a big difference between saying I'm stressed and my stepdaughters behave like sluts around their father. I simply told her that my mother and sister also know it and would come to talk about it too. She, for obvious reasons, just went to lock herself in her room, not wanting to talk with me. Once we talked to my father, I showed him most of the posts and comments. There were so many crazy comments that I think it would take me too long to read them all because they were just so long too. She's that kind of people who comments the bio of their lives in the posts of other people. My father got angry. My SM never expressed having a single problem with us like that. The situation would be different if we knew what she thinks about us. My father went to look for my SM, who refused to talk about it and was mostly angry with me for violating her privacy. My father told her that she's insane for thinking that my sister and I sexually provoked him, that he can't believe the way she talks about my sister and the happiness she expresses every time my sister goes to the hospital and is not home, how she expresses to be counting the days until my sibling stops going to the house forever. My father told her that she knew that he is a father and that he would never leave us aside. She made her decision, and even so, instead of talking about her problems, she decided to create an account to play at being a victim. She said she needs a place to vent, but he told her that venting is not the same as telling lies. Venting is not the same as hating your stepdaughters and talking horrible things about them, and she could have spoken about it and not just lied. They argued a lot, but it didn't get anywhere because she kept defending herself, and my father only told her that it was over. My mother told my father that she is not going to let my sister and brother be around a woman who is clearly mentally unstable because no normal person thinks like that. After arguing too much and even trying to make SM understand that what she did is wrong, she just justified herself all the time. My father went with us and told her that he is going to come back just to see my brother every day, but that he no longer trusts her and never saw that side of her. She lied for so many years. Nothing really went as I expected because I expected her to be more mature. I think I at least hoped that she could apologize, but I think she doesn't even think that what she did is wrong. In her mind, everything was totally justified because being a stepmother is difficult, but nothing justifies her being so cruel and poisonous. But yeah, that's what happened. I think it's hurtful to know that someone can hide that much darkness inside. I wasn't too close with her, but I liked her, to the point of sharing my clothes and things with her, so I also feel sad about it. Mostly for my dad. Comments. Comment 1. Wow, just wow. You think you know someone and then 1 second, bam. I am so sorry you and your family are dealing with this. SM is off her rocker. Does she need constant attention and approval? She needs therapy and most likely the whole family because this is a traumatic event and major trust issues are now forming. Stay well, stay strong. OP. Comment 2. I am happy that your father stood up for you all. I got kicked out of step-parent Reddit because it was clear that some step-parents were unhinged and hated their step-kids with a passion. OP. Yeah, I even had to delete the first post because I was told that someone had made a post in that sub to alert my SM. My stepdaughter passed away 4 weeks ago and I caught my husband and his ex-wife together in our bed. My stepdaughter Becca, 14, died 4 weeks ago. I've been in her life since she was 7 years old. We were extremely close. My husband Derek, 40, his ex-wife Sam, 38, and I, 35, get along very well. There has never been an issue in the 7 years that I've been with Derek. Sam has always been kind to me. She didn't even care that Becca called me mom too. Right after Becca's passing, Sam had so much anxiety and depression that she was unable to be by herself. She has no family besides us, so we invited her to stay with us. Sam hardly leaves the house. She mostly just sleeps in Becca's room, which is completely understandable. I always tell her that I'm here if she needs me and that I want her to take her time grieving and that there is no pressure to go back to her home. Today I needed to run some errands, so I asked Sam if she'd like to join me to get out of the house a little bit, but she declined and said she'd rather just stay at the house and sleep. I told Derek that I was leaving and that I would be back in 2-ish hours. He works from home. I also told him to check on Sam every once in a while, and maybe try getting her to eat something. After stopping at the post office, I realized I forgot my library book that I needed to return, so I went back home to get it. As soon as I walked in the door, I heard moaning coming from mine and Derek's bedroom. I immediately knew what was happening, and my heart completely broke at that moment. I wasn't completely sure what to do, but I ended up deciding to confront them, so I walked to the bedroom and opened the door and began yelling at them both. Sam started having an anxiety attack and ran to the bathroom while Derek kept apologizing profusely. I asked him what the hell was happening. He told me that he made himself and Sam some lunch and they began talking about Becca, and shared some memories. And then Sam ended up kissing him and he didn't pull back, and then it ended with them in our bed. They're begging me to understand that it was just grief that caused them to become intimate and that they both made a mistake. I don't know what to do. I love this man. And I love Sam. I'm heartbroken that they did this to me and put me in this position. I feel so stuck. Relevant comments. Comment 1. That would be hard for me. I understand grieving, but how is this excusing cheating? What happens next time he is sad? Edit. I misspoke when I said sad. Obviously this is something beyond devastating. I still don't think it can be used as an excuse. OP. I don't want to excuse his cheating. I think I want to divorce him, but I'm anxious about doing it right after we lost Becca. Comment 2. Probably together. Do you both own the home? If it's in your name, change the locks. Stay strong and don't listen to his excuses. I am so sorry this happened to you during such a difficult time. OP. Exactly what I was thinking if I'm being honest. And yes, we both own it. When I told him to leave, he kept saying sorry and then said that he would leave and respect me wanting him gone for a while. Comment 3. Are you seeing a therapist perhaps? You're dealing with a lot right now. It might be useful. OP. Yes, I am in therapy. I've been with my therapist for other things for the last 3 years. She's been very helpful. I saw her yesterday and was able to figure some things out. Update 1. I decided that I'm filing for a divorce. I can't ever trust Derek again. It sucks because we had an amazing relationship, I thought. He's always been great, so this was a complete shock to me. Last night, Derek came over to talk. He confessed a lot. Turns out it wasn't their first time having sex like most people thought. They've been having sex since 3 months before Becca died. I am completely shocked and heartbroken. Sam also reached out last night and thanked me for everything I've done for her, and told me she was sorry. I didn't respond, I blocked her. I did so much for Sam and considered her a friend, so this hurts a lot, more than I can handle. This is all too much. As hard as this is gonna be, I need to leave Derek and cut them both out of my life. I am ready to do so. I am done. Also, some people are saying I deserve this because I should have known better than to let Sam into our home, around Derek. But you need to understand that I'm a giving person. I trust people more than I should. I truly thought Sam was an amazing person. I know it's unusual to become friends with your husband's ex-wife, but it's just how it went for us and I shouldn't be blamed for what happened. Thank you to everyone who commented nice things and for the kind messages. You've all been helpful during this insanely difficult time. I appreciate it. Relevant comments. Comment, out of curiosity, what are his excuses for cheating? Those two are going to be in a world of hurt once the guilt settles in. They're going to be asking themselves why it had to be Becca and will eventually come to the conclusion that it's their punishment for what they've done to you. I can pretty much guarantee you that. OP, he told me that they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. It seems so icky to me. How can he vent about our struggles like that and then go and have sex with Sam? It's just awful of him. I don't understand it. Editor's note, remove the first half of the updates as it was a rehash of update #1. Updates 2. I'm getting lots of questions about some things, so I figured I'd answer a few of them. Have I told anyone about what happened besides my mom? Yes, I told a few friends and some family members. Most of them are supportive of my decision and aren't speaking to Derek. Where is Derek staying? Currently, he's staying at a hotel. Our friends refuse to let him stay with them. He's lost a lot of people due to his awful decisions. Has he tried fighting me on getting a divorce? Yes, he begged me not to file for divorce, but when I told him I needed him to just let me go and that I was too exhausted to fight him on this, he let it be and agreed to getting a divorce. Why isn't Derek staying with Sam? He told me he didn't want to continue to hurt me, so he told Sam he was done with her for good, and that they have no reason to speak to each other anymore. I have no idea if that'll last and if they'll just end up together, but I truly don't care what they do anymore. I just want peace. What was Derek's excuse for cheating? He told me that they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. Disgusting of them both, I know. Feel free to ask anything else, and I'll try to answer. Thank you everyone for your support and advice. Relevant comments OP on what happened to Becca. OP, it was very sudden. She died in a car accident when she was with one of her friends and her friend's parents. OP on her husband's parents being supportive or not, and if they know about his cheating. OP, I get along with Derek's mom very well, but he's also a mama's boy, so it's kinda complicated. She will always be there for him. He'd stay with her if she didn't live across the country. She knows what he did and told me she had a talk with him, but said that he's still her son and she'd help him with anything if he needed it. I'm thinking I need to cut her out of my life too, which makes me really sad because we were close and talked on the phone almost daily. OP on if she has children with her husband. OP, we've had 6 miscarriages total. All of them were in the first trimester. More updates. I just found out that he is staying with Sam and not at the hotel. He told me it's too expensive to stay at a hotel and Sam is the only one that'll help him right now. I had a feeling this would happen. Just knowing that they are still probably sleeping together hurts my heart. I talked to a lawyer this morning and we are proceeding with the divorce and Derek agreed to it. It's actually happening, and I feel some relief that he's not fighting me on this. My mom leaves on Sunday. I'm scared to be alone. But I go back to work on Monday, so I'm hoping it'll be a good distraction. I'll keep updating if anything else happens. Thank you everyone, I am so grateful for you all. Relevant comments. Comment 1, OP, how did you find out he was staying at his ex-wife's place? Anything he says should be taken with a grain of salt. He's not true to his words in going on contact with Sam. OP, he texted me this morning after we talked to lawyers, and said he just wants to be honest with me. I told him to stop giving me updates on what he's doing in his life and that it's not something I need to know. It seems like he wanted to tell me to hurt me. OP on how she is doing. OP, thank you, I'm doing a little better today. My mom and I went on some nature walks and went out into the garden this afternoon. That helped. Becca loved gardening with me, so it made me feel closer to her. I decided to go through some of Becca's stuff today. I just found her diary in a box in the back of her closet. Would it be wrong to read some of it? I feel like it would help me feel closer to her, but part of me feels like it's wrong too. I haven't told Derek that I found it either, and I'm unsure if I should tell him. What would you do? Relevant comments OP on if she was closer with Becca prior to her sudden passing. OP, Becca and I were very close. It felt like she told me anything and everything, but I honestly think all parents feel that way about their kids, so I'm kinda nervous to read it. Just a little update. I figured it's been a few days, so I should give a little update. My mom is leaving in a couple hours, so I'll be alone. I'm kinda nervous about it. She helped me stay distracted and kept me going. IDK how I'm gonna handle her being gone. I go back to work tomorrow, the first day back since Becca passed away. I'm looking forward to it though because it'll keep me distracted. Also, I did read some of Becca's diary. It made me love her even more. She was such a sweetheart. I went back a few months and saw that she noticed some weird behavior between Derek and Sam. Didn't mention that she knew of the affair, but she just wrote that she thought it was kinda strange that they all 3 would hang out more than usual, without me. I might read more, but so far I haven't found anything that's disturbing. Just her being a teenager and talking about crushes, fights with friends, happy family memories, etc. Tomorrow I'm also talking to my lawyer, so I might have more updates on that. Thanks for the continuous love and support everyone. Last update for a while. Started randomly getting a lot more messages, comments, so I figured I'd do another little last update. My first week back at work went great. I wasn't expecting it to go so well, but thankfully it did. My coworkers were so helpful and patient with me. On Friday night I decided I didn't want to stay home all weekend alone, so I decided to drive up to my mom's. It helps that I have a 3-day weekend so I can spend more time with her. I'm heading back home tomorrow. Also, for those of you that have messaged me hateful things for reading Becca's diary, I just have to say, you aren't in my shoes right now. Telling me I'm a bad mom because I'm reading her diary is just ridiculous. I learned so much more about her, about how caring and sweet she is, and it made me love her even more. It's how I'm able to feel so close to her right now, so please don't tell me I'm a bad parent for just trying to get by one of the hardest times of my life. You have no idea what it's like. I don't have much of an update, so this will be it. I'll come back and update once the divorce happens though. Thank you to those of you that have been nothing but kind and helpful. You helped me feel less alone. I'll forever be grateful. Sam saw my Reddit post and is threatening to sue me. Sam made a fake FB profile to message me and tell me she wants to sue me for telling strangers about what happened. Derek supports her apparently. I don't need this. Am I not allowed to vent about my life to people online? I just want life to get better. I'm so tired. Fuck you, Sam. Fuck you, Derek. Edit. Sam is in the comments and messaged me on here too. Blocked her. Additional information from OPOP on the message from Sam OP. No, I just ignored her. It might be an empty threat just to make my life harder, but I'm unsure. Her message said, so I was scrolling through TikTok and ended up on an account where they read Reddit posts, and guess whose post they read? Yours. First you tell friends and family, and then you go to a bunch of strangers and tell them our life story. I can't believe you. It isn't just your business to tell. Becca would be so disappointed in you. Be prepared, because I think I'm going to be suing you for this. This was no one else's business. You did this to yourself, remember that. I'm actually baffled. She thinks Becca would be disappointed in me. Jealous ex claimed I was cheating and faked a pregnancy to trap me, but it turns out that she was actually the one cheating and the baby wasn't mine. At 28, navigating significant drama has unfortunately become a recent theme in my life. My ex-girlfriend, Sarah, a pseudonym, and I ended our tumultuous 2-year relationship a few months ago after discovering some shocking truths. Sarah and I first crossed paths at a party through mutual friends and quickly clicked. The first year of our relationship was idyllic. We shared similar interests, loved spending time together, and even talked about our future. I'm a software engineer, while Sarah works as a graphic designer. Despite our demanding careers, we made time for each other, enjoying spontaneous weekend getaways, trying new restaurants, and binge-watching TV shows on lazy Sundays. We introduced each other to our families, and everything seemed perfect. But over time, things started to unravel. Initially, Sarah voiced concerns about how much time I spent at work and my close friendships with certain women. I brushed these off as normal relationship issues, but her jealousy and possessiveness soon escalated. She became increasingly upset if I spent time with female friends, even in group settings, and began scrutinizing my phone and questioning every text or call I received. One memorable incident involved dinner with my best friend Mike and his girlfriend while Sarah canceled due to work. That night, Sarah called me in tears, accusing me of lying about my whereabouts after seeing a Snapchat story from a mutual friend who was at the same restaurant. It took hours to calm her down and prove my innocence. Things deteriorated further when I began a major project at work, which required extra hours and late nights. Sarah had a hard time dealing with this, frequently calling me during the day, showing up at my office unannounced, and even following me to catch me in the act. Despite my reassurances, introducing her to my coworkers, sharing my location, and contemplating quitting the project, nothing seemed to ease her anxiety. The constant accusations and lack of trust were exhausting. The breaking point came when Sarah accused me of cheating with a coworker named Emily. After seeing work-related texts between Emily and me, Sarah completely lost it. One evening, she showed up at my office while Emily and I were working on a presentation. Bursting into the conference room, she screamed and cried, accusing Emily of trying to steal me away and hurling insults. Despite my efforts to calm her, she became hysterical, threw a potted plant, which missed me, and security had to escort her out. Emily was understandably shaken, and the next day, I had to explain the situation to my boss. He was sympathetic but warned me that such incidents couldn't happen again. Although Emily remained professional, the atmosphere became awkward between us, and some colleagues began treating me as if I were the guy with the crazy ex-girlfriend. After the incident, it became evident that our relationship couldn't continue. I took a day off work and went to Sarah's apartment to end things. I explained that her constant mistrust and accusations had become unbearable, affecting not just our relationship but also my work and friendships. Sarah didn't handle it well. The conversation quickly devolved into yelling, crying, and name-calling. She accused me of never loving her, using her, and cheating throughout our relationship. In the heat of the moment, she even threw some of my belongings out of her apartment window. It was a chaotic scene. As I was leaving, she threatened to ruin my life and make me pay for breaking her heart. At the time, I dismissed it as an emotional outburst, feeling relieved to be free from the relationship. In the weeks that followed, Sarah kept trying to reach me, calling, texting, and even showing up at places she knew I frequented. Her messages ranged from begging for another chance to threatening to expose me as a cheater. I blocked her number on all social media platforms, and eventually, she seemed to get the hint and backed off. I spent the next few weeks focusing on getting my life back on track, immersing myself in work, hitting the gym more often, and reconnecting with friends I had neglected during my time with Sarah. Things started to feel normal again. Then, last week, while enjoying a quiet Friday evening at home, Sarah unexpectedly showed up at my door. She looked pale and exhausted. Before I could react, she blurted out that she was pregnant and that the baby was mine. Stunned and disbelieving, I struggled to process the news. We had always been careful, and given how our relationship had ended, I wondered if this was a scheme to win me back. Sarah claimed she was about 2 months pregnant, which coincided with a period when our relationship was falling apart. I invited her in, more out of shock than anything else. We sat in my living room, where she explained that she had missed her period, taken a home test, and confirmed it with a doctor. I told her I needed time to process this and offered her a glass of water before retreating to the kitchen to clear my head. When I returned, I found her going through my phone, which I had left on the coffee table. I confronted her, and she claimed she was just checking the time, but it felt like a breach of trust I had grown accustomed to. I told her that before I could accept what she was saying, I needed concrete proof, such as a paternity test. Sarah was upset and accused me of not trusting her, which felt ironic given our history. She pleaded for me to believe her, but all I could think about were the times she had accused me of lying and cheating. I insisted on a paternity test and medical proof of the pregnancy. Sarah grew angry, hurling insults and accusing me of cowardice for not taking responsibility. She threatened to tell our mutual friends and my family that I was abandoning her and the child. Then she stormed off, slamming the door behind her. Since then, I've been a wreck. I can't concentrate at work. I'm struggling with sleep, and I feel constantly on edge. I question whether I'm being too harsh. What if she really is pregnant? Yet another part of me wonders if this is a manipulation tactic. I've spent hours researching false pregnancy claims and paternity rights. Although I've considered reaching out to Sarah, I remember how toxic our relationship had become and how much happier I've been since the breakup. I haven't shared this with anyone, neither my family nor my best friend Mike. I'm unsure of what to do. Am I wrong for not believing her and demanding proof? Should I have handled the situation differently? I keep replaying the conversation in my mind, wondering if I missed something. Sarah did look different, tired and stressed, but could it simply be from the aftermath of our breakup? And why wait 2 months to tell me if she's truly pregnant? The thought of Sarah spreading the news weighs heavily on me. My parents would be devastated if they believed I was abandoning a pregnant girlfriend, and I can only imagine how my friends would react. I've always prided myself on being a reliable person, and the idea of being perceived as a deadbeat dad is distressing. But at the same time, I can't accept this without verification. Sarah's past behavior has eroded my trust in her word alone, and bringing a child into the world is a massive responsibility, one that I'm not sure either of us is prepared for, especially given the state of our relationship. I've been contemplating reaching out to some of our mutual friends to see if they have any insight, but I'm concerned about stirring up rumors before I have a clear understanding of what's really happening. What if Sarah hasn't shared this news with anyone else yet? I don't want to be the one to spread potentially false information. On the other hand, there's a nagging fear that it might be true. I'm not prepared to become a father. Sarah and I had discussed the idea of having children in the distant future, but never as something immediate. The thought of being tied to Sarah for the rest of my life, especially given how toxic our relationship had become, is overwhelming. I've even wondered if the child might not be mine. Given how accusatory Sarah was about my fidelity, could she have been projecting her own issues? Could there have been someone else involved? It's a distressing thought, but I can't ignore any possibility. The more I think about it, the more confused and frustrated I become. I feel trapped with no good options. If I reach out to Sarah for more information, am I opening myself up to further manipulation? If I ignore her, am I potentially abandoning my child? I know I need to act, but I'm paralyzed by indecision. Every option seems fraught with potential pitfalls. I keep hoping she'll reach out with more information or agree to my request for proof, but so far, there's been nothing but silence. Part of me wonders if I should just agree to whatever Sarah wants to keep the peace, but I know that's not the right approach. If there is a child involved, they deserve parents who are committed and certain, not someone who's just trying to avoid conflict. I've even considered seeking legal advice, but that feels like such a drastic step. What if this turns out to be a misunderstanding or a false alarm? Would involving lawyers at this stage be an overreaction? This whole situation has forced me to reevaluate our relationship. Were there signs I missed? Red flags I ignored? I thought I was being a good boyfriend by trying to reassure her and prove my faithfulness, but did I inadvertently enable her behavior? Should I have ended things sooner? It's been a week since Sarah showed up at my door, and I feel no closer to a resolution. Each passing day feels like a ticking clock. If she is pregnant, decisions will need to be made soon, but how can I decide anything when I'm unsure of the basic facts? I keep questioning whether I'm wrong for insisting on proof. Should I have been more sympathetic or more trusting, or am I justified in my caution given our history? I honestly don't know anymore. So here I am, turning to the internet for advice. I realize this is a complex situation, and maybe I haven't provided all the details needed for a full judgment, but I'm at my wit's end. I need an outside perspective. Am I wrong for not believing my ex-girlfriend and insisting on proof of her pregnancy, or am I justified in my caution given our past? What would you do in my situation? Update 1. Hey everyone, it's been about 3 weeks since my original post, and a lot has happened. I wanted to provide an update on the situation with Sarah and her pregnancy claim. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your advice and perspectives have really helped me gain some clarity. Many of you suggested that I should stand firm and insist on proof, while others pointed out that I need to prepare for the possibility that Sarah might actually be pregnant. A few days after our confrontation, Sarah reached out via text. She apologized for her earlier outburst and acknowledged that my doubts were understandable. She agreed to provide medical proof of her pregnancy and to undergo a paternity test once it was feasible. I was relieved to see her taking a more measured approach, though I remained cautious. We arranged to meet at a local coffee shop, a public place to avoid any potential drama and to maintain civility. When we met, Sarah seemed different from how she had appeared at my door. She was calmer and more composed. She handed me an envelope with ultrasound images and a doctor's report confirming her pregnancy. According to the documents, Sarah was about 10 weeks along, which matched the timeline she had previously given me. The ultrasound images were overwhelming. The reality of the situation hit me with a rush of emotions. We spent hours talking. Sarah explained that she had discovered the pregnancy just a week before visiting me and was unsure how to tell me, especially given our rocky breakup. She admitted that her approach, showing up unannounced and making demands, had been misguided and apologized for it. I listened carefully, trying to remain open-minded. I shared my perspective, explaining how her past behavior had made it difficult for me to trust her, and how the sudden news had left me feeling unprepared. We discussed our options. Sarah expressed her desire to keep the baby but understood if I wasn't ready to take on fatherhood. She said she wouldn't pressure me but hoped I would be involved in the child's life. I told her I needed time to process everything, and we agreed to wait for a safe time to perform a non-invasive paternity test, ideally around the 12th week of pregnancy. After our meeting, I felt somewhat better, though still overwhelmed. I decided it was time to inform my family and close friends. I started with my parents, who were stunned. My mom was torn between excitement at the prospect of becoming a grandmother and concern over the circumstances. My dad was skeptical, reminding me of how tumultuous my relationship with Sarah had been. They both supported my decision to get a paternity test and advised me to proceed cautiously. Next, I told my best friend Mike. He was surprised but supportive, offering to be there for me through the process, whatever my decision. He also suggested I might want to consult a lawyer to understand my rights and responsibilities. In the following weeks, Sarah and I kept in touch through text. She updated me on her doctor's visits and how she was feeling. Navigating this new dynamic with someone from my past was strange. Then, about a week ago, Sarah called me, panicked. She said she had started bleeding and was heading to the hospital. I rushed to meet her there. The next few hours were a blur of medical tests, anxious waiting, and intense conversations with doctors. Eventually, we learned that Sarah had suffered a miscarriage. The doctor explained that early miscarriages are common and not anyone's fault. I was stunned. I hadn't fully come to terms with the idea of becoming a father, and now it was all over. Sarah was devastated. Despite our issues, seeing her in such pain was heartbreaking. I stayed with her until she was discharged. The drive back to her place was quiet, and when we arrived, Sarah broke down. She apologized again for her handling of the situation, saying she had been scared and unsure how to proceed. She acknowledged that her past behavior, her jealousy and accusations, had been wrong and that losing the baby made her realize how much she had messed up between us. I listened, feeling a complex mix of emotions. I was saddened by the loss of a potential child, despite my uncertainty about fatherhood. Yet I also felt a sense of relief, which then made me feel guilty. A part of me still wondered if the whole situation had been real. I asked Sarah if she had shared the news with anyone else. She said no, that she had been waiting until after the first trimester to tell her family and friends. So only my parents, Mike and I knew about the situation. That night, we talked extensively about the pregnancy, our failed relationship, and what might come next. Sarah mentioned she planned to start therapy to address her trust issues and jealousy. She didn't ask to reconcile or manipulate the situation, which I appreciated. I told her I needed some time and space to process everything. She understood and agreed that it would be best if we didn't see each other for a while. As I left Sarah's apartment that night, I felt a mix of exhaustion and relief. The emotional roller coaster of the past few weeks had been draining. Now, a week later, I'm still trying to process everything. I've started seeing a therapist to help me work through my feelings about the situation. Having a neutral person to talk to has been beneficial. I've also been reflecting on my relationship with Sarah and my own actions. While I still stand by my decision to ask for proof of the pregnancy, I recognize there were moments when I could have communicated better or been more understanding of her insecurities. Sarah and I have exchanged a few texts since that night. She's been attending therapy and feels it's helping her understand her behavior more clearly. She's apologized again for how she treated me and for the way she initially handled the pregnancy news. I'm uncertain about our future. Romantically, it seems unlikely we'll get back together given everything that's transpired. However, I'm open to the possibility of building a friendship once we've both had time to heal and grow. Regarding the pregnancy, I still have doubts. The medical documents appeared genuine, and the hospital confirmed the miscarriage. Yet, given our history, a part of me remains skeptical. For my own peace of mind, I've decided to accept that it was real and move forward. This experience has taught me valuable lessons about communication, trust, and the enduring impact of past actions on relationships. I'm trying to apply these lessons to become a better person and partner in the future. My parents and Mike have been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. They've listened, offered advice, and simply been there for me. I'm thankful for their strong support system. Looking back at my initial post, I can see how bewildered and unsettled I was. I still believe I was right to ask for proof, but I now understand why Sarah might have reacted the way she did. Fear and hormones can drive people to act out of character. In response to those who asked, no, I haven't shared the details with any of our mutual friends. Sarah and I agreed that it's a private matter and that spreading it would only stir up unnecessary drama and gossip. As for work, things have fortunately settled down. The tension with Emily and my other co-workers has eased, and I've focused on my projects, which has been a welcome distraction. I realize this update might not meet everyone's expectations. Life seldom follows neat, clear-cut paths. It's messy and often leaves us with more questions than answers. I'm still processing everything and know it will take time to fully come to terms with it. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, concentrating on my personal growth and healing. I appreciate all the advice and support. It's been invaluable. If anything significant changes, I'll provide another update. For now, I'm focused on moving forward, learning from this experience, and working towards a better future. Update 2. I had hoped to conclude my story with the last update. It seemed like a somewhat decent ending, but life has a way of complicating things. It's been about 2 months since my last post, and my anger from everything that's happened hasn't subsided. Just when I thought the situation with Sarah couldn't get more complicated, I was proven wrong. After the miscarriage, Sarah and I had limited contact. We exchanged occasional texts, mostly with her updating me on her therapy progress and me responding politely. I was still working through everything and trying to move on. Work was going well. I'd immersed myself in a new project, which served as a welcome distraction. Relations with my co-workers, including Emily, had mostly returned to normal, and I was even starting to consider dating again, though I hadn't gone on any dates yet. Then, about 3 weeks ago, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, a man's voice asked if I was my name. After I confirmed, he introduced himself as Robert and said we needed to talk about Sarah. My stomach sank. I asked who he was, and he revealed that he was Sarah's ex-boyfriend. Apparently, they had been together for a few weeks during a break Sarah and I had taken. I remembered that break. It was after a particularly bad argument, and we had spent about 2 months apart. Robert contacted me to share some information he believed I needed to hear. We arranged to meet at a local bar the following evening. The next 24 hours were filled with anxiety as I considered the implications of what he might reveal. Despite my reluctance, I knew I had to face whatever was coming. When we met, Robert appeared surprisingly composed. He was about my age and seemed like an ordinary guy. He bought us a beer and got straight to the point. Sarah had lied to me. The baby wasn't mine, it was his. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Robert explained that he and Sarah had continued their relationship on and off even after Sarah and I had reconciled. Their last encounter had occurred about a week before Sarah and I broke up for good. He showed me text messages between him and Sarah from months earlier. In them, Sarah expressed her unhappiness with me and her fear of being alone, revealing that she had stayed in the relationship out of fear. The text included her panicking about the pregnancy and her plans. One particularly shocking message from Sarah to Robert, dated just days before she came to me with the pregnancy claim, read, "I have a plan. I'm going to tell my name, the baby is his. He makes good money and he's always wanted kids. He'll take care of us." The realization that she had cheated on me and tried to manipulate me into raising another man's child was devastating. Robert, feeling guilty after the miscarriage, thought I deserved to know the truth. I thanked him for his honesty, though part of me wished I could go back to being ignorant. We finished our beers in silence, each lost in thought. Before leaving, Robert apologized for his role in the situation. I couldn't bring myself to hate him, as I appreciated his decision to come clean. After Robert left, I sat at the bar for a long time, trying to absorb what I had learned. The bartender, sensing my distress, gave me a free drink. I went home that night feeling numb, unable to eat or sleep. The following day, I called in sick to work. I needed time to process my emotions. I spent the day oscillating between anger and disbelief. How could Sarah have done this? How could she lie so comprehensively? And how had I been so blind? Reflecting on her previous accusations of cheating and her jealous outbursts, it became clear they were projections of her own behavior. After a day of contemplation, I knew I had to confront Sarah. I couldn't let this go unanswered. I texted her to arrange a meeting, which she likely thought was a routine check-in. We met at the same coffee shop where she had shown me the ultrasound pictures. As soon as she saw me, she knew something was amiss. Before she could speak, I laid everything out. The meeting with Robert, the text messages, and all the new information I had. At first, Sarah seemed poised to deny it, but then she broke down in tears, apologizing and saying she never intended for things to go this far. I asked how she could lie so deeply and attempt to trap me into raising a child that wasn't mine. She explained she was scared and desperate, hoping that if she could get me to accept the baby, everything would work out. I told her that what she had done was unforgivable. She had not only betrayed my trust in the worst way but also been willing to drag an innocent child into her deceit. Sarah pleaded for forgiveness, saying she would do anything to make amends, but I knew there was no fixing this. The trust between us was irrevocably shattered. I told her I never wanted to see or hear from her again and hoped she would continue therapy because she clearly needed help. Then I stood up and walked out, ignoring her desperate pleas for me to stay. The next few days were a blur. I informed my parents and Mike of what had happened, and they were furious on my behalf. My mom wanted to call Sarah and confront her, but I asked her not to. I just wanted to be done with the situation. I also decided to inform a few mutual friends to preempt any potential misinformation from Sarah. I didn't go into all the details. I simply said Sarah had cheated and lied about the pregnancy. Most were shocked and supportive. One friend admitted she had suspected Sarah might be cheating and had seen her with another man but didn't realize it was serious. She apologized for not coming forward sooner. I was hurt that she hadn't said anything earlier, but I understood her reluctance to get involved. At work, I finally confided in Emily about everything that had transpired. Her response was incredibly supportive and understanding. She admitted she had always felt something was off about Sarah but had held back from saying anything negative about my girlfriend. Through all this, Emily and I have grown closer, and I'm starting to see her in a new light. Who knows, there might be potential for something more in the future. Since our confrontation at the coffee shop, I haven't heard from Sarah. I've blocked her number and all her social media accounts. A mutual friend informed me that Sarah has moved back in with her parents and continues with therapy. Part of me hopes she gets the help she needs, but mostly, I just want her out of my life permanently. Reflecting on our relationship, it's clear now how toxic it was. Sarah's jealousy and insecurity weren't just minor issues, they were indicators of deeper problems. I now realize I should have ended things much sooner. I've been contemplating why I stayed with Sarah for so long and endured her behavior. I think part of it was fear of being alone, another part was the misguided hope that I could fix her and earn her trust, and, I'm ashamed to admit, a part of me enjoyed feeling needed, even if it was in an unhealthy way. Coming to terms with the loss of the future I had envisioned has been one of the hardest parts. Even though I had doubts about the pregnancy, a part of me had started to imagine what being a father might be like. Having that possibility snatched away, only to discover it was all a lie, has been painful. However, I also feel relieved that I learned the truth before it was too late and that I'm no longer bound to Sarah for the rest of my life. In the past few weeks, I've focused on myself. I've resumed running, a hobby I had abandoned during my relationship with Sarah. I'm reading more, spending time with friends, and even considering a solo trip. Work has been a great distraction. I've immersed myself in a new project at work, and my boss has noticed. He's hinted at a potential promotion if I continue performing well. It's nice to have something positive to concentrate on. As for dating, I'm not ready to dive into anything serious yet. I need time to heal and rebuild my trust. But I'm open to meeting someone new when the time is right. This experience has taught me a lot about myself, relationships, and trust. I've learned the importance of trusting your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. To those who followed my story from the start, thank you for your support and advice. You helped me gain clarity when I was too close to the situation to see it. If there's one takeaway from my story, it's this. Trust is invaluable, and once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to restore. Don't stay in a relationship where you're constantly questioning your partner or yourself, and if someone reveals their true nature, believe them the first time. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are more difficult than others, but overall, I'm doing okay. I'm looking forward to the future and confident that I can face whatever challenges come my way. This will be my final update on this matter. It's time for me to close this chapter and move on. Thank you all again for your support throughout this turbulent journey. Here's to new beginnings and better days ahead. It's been about 10 months since my last update, and I didn't think I'd be writing another one. I thought the chapter with Sarah was closed for good, but life has a way of surprising us. After everything with Sarah and the revelation about her cheating, I focused on moving forward. I threw myself into work, continued with therapy, and began rebuilding my social life. Things were going well. The promotion my boss hinted at came through, and I'm now leading my own team on a major project, which has been challenging but rewarding. Emily and I have been working closely, and I have to admit there's been some flirting between us. We haven't acted on it yet, partly because I'm wary of getting involved with a coworker after everything that happened with Sarah, but the attraction is definitely there. Then, about a month ago, everything changed again. While at the grocery store one evening, just picking up dinner supplies, I ran into Robert. Yes, the same Robert who had revealed the truth about the baby. We were both stunned by the coincidence. Robert asked if I wanted to grab a coffee and catch up. I hesitated at first, questioning whether I really wanted to revisit everything, but my curiosity got the better of me and I agreed. Over coffee, Robert updated me on Sarah's situation. After our last encounter, she'd had a complete breakdown, quitting her job, moving back in with her parents, and diving into intensive therapy. Robert had been in touch with her parents, feeling a sense of responsibility for her current state. He told me that Sarah had recently discovered she was pregnant again, and this time, it was definitely his child. Although they weren't rekindling their relationship, Robert intended to co-parent with her. I was filled with anger. Why should Sarah get to have a baby after deceiving me about the last one? Yet I also felt a sense of relief, glad that I wasn't in Robert's position, tied to Sarah for the foreseeable future. Robert seemed genuinely excited about fatherhood but admitted he was anxious about co-parenting with Sarah given their complicated past. He mentioned that Sarah had made significant progress in therapy, addressing her trust issues and manipulative behavior, but he remained cautious. Before we parted ways, Robert hesitated and said, "There's something else you should know. Sarah's been asking about you and wants to apologize in person for everything she did." I told Robert I'd think it over but made no promises. In the days following, I couldn't shake the thoughts of what Robert had shared. I discussed it with my therapist, trying to navigate my emotions. On one hand, I had no obligation to meet Sarah or hear her out. Her actions had been unforgivable, and I had every right to keep her out of my life. On the other hand, a small part of me wondered if hearing her apology might bring some closure. After much consideration, I decided to meet with Sarah. I figured facing it head-on was better than always wondering what if. I asked Robert to arrange the meeting, making it clear that this was a one-time occurrence. We met at a park on a Saturday. I chose a public park for our meeting, neutral ground to avoid any potential drama. When Sarah arrived, I noticed how different she looked, smaller and less confident. She sat on the bench next to me, maintaining a respectful distance. For a moment, we were silent. Then she took a deep breath and began. "I know nothing I say can undo what I did," she started. "But I want you to know how deeply sorry I am for everything. For the cheating, the lies, and for trying to trap you with a baby that wasn't yours. It was inexcusable, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." She went on to explain that she had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which shed light on but didn't excuse her past behavior. She spoke about the intensive therapy she was undergoing, learning to manage her emotions and insecurities in healthier ways. "I'm not sharing this to ask for forgiveness," she said. "I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand how much I hurt you, and I'm doing everything I can to ensure I never treat anyone that way again." After she finished, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I told her that while I appreciated her apology, forgiveness wasn't something I could offer, at least not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, and the betrayal too profound. However, I did express hope that she would continue her therapy and work on becoming a better person, especially now that she was going to be a mother. Sarah nodded, thanking me for listening and agreeing to meet. As she got up to leave, she paused and said, "I truly am happy for you. Robert told me about your promotion and about Emily. I hope things work out for you. You deserve to be happy." With that, she walked away. I remained on that bench for a long time, reflecting on what had just happened. It wasn't the dramatic showdown I might have imagined, but rather a quiet closing of a chapter, a final end to that part of my life. In the weeks since our meeting, I've spent a lot of time thinking about Sarah, our relationship, and everything that transpired. I've come to realize that while I may never forgive her actions, I can release the anger I've been holding on to. It's not about excusing what she did, but about freeing myself from the negative emotions that have weighed me down. In my personal life, things are finally looking up. You might recall I mentioned some flirtation with Emily. About a week after my meeting with Sarah, Emily and I decided to address the situation directly. We've chosen to explore a relationship, with the understanding that we'll maintain professionalism at work and keep our boss informed to prevent any conflicts of interest. It's still early, but being with Emily feels refreshingly different from any past relationship. The trust and communication we have are levels beyond what I experienced with Sarah. We're taking it slow, aware of the potential challenges of dating a coworker, but so far, things have been promising. My friends and family have been very supportive of this new development. Mike even joked that he'd seen Emily and me ending up together ever since the crazy ex-girlfriend incident at the office. My parents are just glad to see me happy again. Work is going smoothly as well. The project I'm leading is progressing well, and my team has come together effectively. It's gratifying to see the results of our hard work starting to show. Regarding Sarah and Robert, I've chosen to keep my distance. Robert occasionally updates me, which I appreciate, but I've made it clear that I don't want to be involved in their lives. I wish them well, particularly for the sake of their child, but that chapter is firmly closed for me. To everyone who's followed my story from the start, thank you for your support and advice. Your input was invaluable, especially during those challenging times right after I discovered Sarah's deception. I'm uncertain about the future. My relationship with Emily is still new and its direction remains to be seen. My career is on an upward path, but I know there will be hurdles ahead. Life is inherently unpredictable. However, for the first time in a long while, I'm genuinely excited about what's to come. I feel like I've been given a fresh start, a chance to apply all the lessons I've learned and build a life that's truly fulfilling. This will be my final update on this matter. It's time to close this chapter and focus on the future. Thanks again to everyone for your support throughout this tumultuous journey. Here's to new beginnings, hard-earned wisdom, and the endless possibilities that lie ahead. My husband's inattention almost cost our baby's life, but our brave toddler saved the day while I recovered from surgery. Original post, March 11th, 2024. Hey Reddit, I need to share this story because I'm still shaking from what happened. I'm 25 years old and have been with my husband, who is 30, since 2018. We have a 3-year-old daughter and a newborn son. But tonight, things almost took a turn for the worse. My husband has always had trouble paying attention, but I never thought it would come to this. Our neighborhood is oddly laid out, with cars zooming by at crazy speeds at all hours of the day. I was folding clothes when I heard our toddler screaming, "Dad, help!" That tone made me drop everything and sprint outside. What I saw made my blood run cold. Our newborn in his stroller, careening towards the busy street. I screamed and ran to him, barely stopping the stroller in time. My baby girl's hands and knees were scratched up because she tripped trying to run after the stroller. I snatched up my baby, heart pounding, and scanned for my husband. He wasn't watching. He was chatting with neighbors, completely oblivious. The anger I felt was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I stormed up to him, shouting in disbelief. He looked shocked at first, then realized what almost happened. The apologies and tears came pouring out, but it was too late. I couldn't wrap my head around how he could be so careless, so blind to our toddler's screams and the stroller rolling away. I packed up the kids and left, staying with my parents. They're on my side, but my husband keeps texting, begging for forgiveness, calling it an honest mistake. But I can't shake the terror of almost losing my baby because he couldn't focus for a single second. My baby girl got hurt in the process because he couldn't pay attention. I almost lost my son because he couldn't pay attention. I can't stop crying. I feel so guilty. I wish this all never happened. Sorry it's short. I just want to hold my babies and I can't stop shaking every time I think about it. What if I was just 1 second late? Would I have been planning a funeral? The reason I left the house instead of him was because I hate that house. I don't feel like it is safe for the kids with all the traffic, and I was right. It's my husband's workhouse. I can't be running either. I had a C-section less than 6 weeks ago. A lot of people are saying, why wasn't I watching the kids? I was doing their laundry like a parent. He takes them for walks to have bonding time with them. He literally created this by himself. This has never happened before. How was I supposed to know? And people are saying, why didn't I get him checked out? I'm not his mother. He is 30 years old. I'm sick of people acting like I have to parent my own husband while I literally have a newborn, a toddler. And I'm still healing from a C-section that I tore my stitches from when I ran to get my baby. I don't care if it was his ADHD, the court wouldn't care either. If he had killed my child, he would have gone to prison either way. Relevant comments and additional info from OP1 commenter expressed confusion about the situation, questioning why the baby was in a stroller unattended and how the stroller ended up in the road. They pointed out that most parents have experienced near-death situations with their children due to naivety and overestimating a child's awareness. The commenter acknowledged that the husband seemed remorseful and suggested having a serious talk, possibly considering a move instead of immediately contemplating divorce. OP responded by clarifying that she was inside folding laundry when she heard her toddler scream for help. When she rushed outside, she found her husband chatting with neighbors on their driveway, seemingly oblivious to the situation. OP believes her husband must have left the baby in the stroller unattended near the road, leading to the near-tragic incident. She mentioned that a neighbor offered security footage, which might shed more light on what happened. Another commenter suggested considering her husband's ADHD and the role it might have played in his inattentiveness. They emphasized the importance of understanding ADHD and its impact on behavior and life expectancy. They advised OP to communicate her needs clearly to her husband and seek solutions like medication or lifestyle changes to manage his ADHD better. OP agreed, explaining that she was waiting for the security footage to understand the situation fully. She described her house layout and how she could hear her toddler from the open window in the lounge. When she ran outside, a neighbor's wife was already running toward the stroller, and another neighbor was helping her daughter. OP's husband was just standing there, seemingly in shock. A third commenter expressed horror at the situation and concern for OP's well-being, given that she had just had a baby via C-section. They questioned what her husband was doing and suggested that watching small children near a busy street should be treated with the same vigilance as watching them swim. OP replied that she tore her stitches from the C-section and had to go to the ER. While there, she made sure her daughter got her knees and hands bandaged. OP didn't realize she was bleeding until her mom pointed it out in the car. Her mom took the baby boy back to their house, and her dad took OP and her daughter to the hospital. One commenter was confused about the situation, questioning why the baby was in a stroller unattended and how the stroller ended up in the road. They acknowledged that the husband seemed remorseful and suggested having a serious talk, possibly considering a move, instead of immediately contemplating divorce. OP responded by clarifying that she was inside folding laundry when she heard her toddler scream for help. When she rushed outside, she found her husband chatting with neighbors on their driveway, seemingly oblivious to the situation. OP believes her husband must have left the baby in the stroller unattended near the road, leading to the near-tragic incident. She mentioned that a neighbor offered security footage, which might shed more light on what happened. Another commenter suggested considering her husband's ADHD and the role it might have played in his inattentiveness. They emphasized the importance of understanding ADHD and its impact on behavior and life expectancy. They advised OP to communicate her needs clearly to her husband and seek solutions like medication or lifestyle changes to manage his ADHD better. OP agreed, explaining that she was waiting for the security footage to understand the situation fully. She described her house layout and how she could hear her toddler from the open window in the lounge. When she ran outside, a neighbor's wife was already running toward the stroller, and another neighbor was helping her daughter. OP's husband was just standing there, seemingly in shock. A third commenter expressed horror at the situation and concern for OP's well-being, given that she had just had a baby via C-section. They questioned what her husband was doing and suggested that watching small children near a busy street should be treated with the same vigilance as watching them swim. OP replied that she tore her stitches from the C-section and had to go to the ER. While there, she made sure her daughter got her knees and hands bandaged. OP didn't realize she was bleeding until her mom pointed it out in the car. Her mom took the baby boy back to their house, and her dad took OP and her daughter to the hospital. OP updated 11 hours later. Update. The neighbor's wife sent me the footage, and I really can't just wrap my head around it, so my husband was walking with the stroller and my toddler was in front of them when they passed the neighbor's house. My neighbor was outside, washing his car, and my toddler saw his pet cat and stopped to pet it. So my husband stopped. Left my baby on the road. He didn't even bother locking the wheels and walked all the way up the driveway, not even bothering looking back at the baby. He had his back faced to him for about 5 minutes before the stroller just suddenly started moving. I think it's because the road is on a hill kinda, or it could have been the wind. My toddler never went near the stroller. It couldn't be her. The stroller went down the road and my toddler. That's when she started screaming and running for it when she saw it. The neighbors started running after my daughter when she tripped. He tried to pick her up. That's when the neighbor's wife's car comes into frame and she stops and starts running back to the way the stroller is coming after that. You can't really see anything because it's all out of frame, but you can hear all the commotion. My husband just stood there the whole time, hand on his head with a blank stare on his face. He didn't even do anything when our toddler was crying from hurting herself. He only started crying when I confronted him. What should I do? I genuinely do not know what to do. I'm panicking. This was never the life I wanted for my kids. I don't understand why he was standing there. I have not even gotten a text or a call from him since I got sent the video. It's just been silent. I just can't get the sound of my daughter's screams. That's the sound that no mother wants to hear. I can't explain at the moment, but it felt like my blood went cold. And I just felt pure fear. I never want to watch the footage again. New update. Went back to my husband after he almost killed our newborn. 19 days later, March 30th, 2024. 19 days later. Hey everyone, I posted here a while back about my husband nearly killing our newborn son. I wanted to give a quick update on the situation. After reading through the comments, I decided to go back to my husband. Many of you pointed out that if I left him, we'd end up with 50-50 its custody of our kids, which I couldn't bear. So I made the difficult choice to stay, even though my love for him has faded. My plan now is to tough it out until our kids turn 18, and then leave. I'm terrified of getting pregnant again, especially since I'm not allowed to use birth control or get my tubes tied. My parents, who could offer support, are moving away, leaving me feeling trapped. Despite everything, my husband tries hard to make things right. He still treats me with affection and goes out of his way to create special moments for our family. Seeing him bond with our newborn and our daughter fills me with conflicting emotions. I know I can't stand being with him, but I can't bear to separate him from our kids either. He was so happy when we came back home, but I can't stand even looking at him. I feel some guilt because he still calls me by my nickname, looks at me like I'm the only girl in the world, besides our daughter, and he still continues our traditions, like when the kids are sleeping he will go get ice cream and our favorite snacks and sets up a fort on our bed to watch movies on our laptop. Even though I'm sacrificing my happiness, my priority is ensuring my children's safety and well-being. It's a tough situation, but I'm doing my best to navigate it for the sake of my family. This is a throwaway, so I'm gonna log out. Bye. Update 3. July 16th, 2024. 3 months after OG post. Editor's note. Added paragraphs for easier reading. As you can see from my previous post, I did go back to him, and it was quite literally the biggest mistake I've ever made, but I felt like I really had no choice. No money, family moved out of state a lot. Has happened the past couple of months, so it turns out my husband started taking meds for his ADHD a couple of weeks before I was due to give birth to our son. He took my kids on a walk to cover up the fact that he was also on meth. He took my kids to meet his dealer, apparently every time they went for a walk. Looking back at the footage now, it makes so much sense because of the way he was talking to the neighbor before everything happened. He was kind of leaning to the side. I talked to my neighbor, and I asked him if he knew that my husband was on drugs. He said he didn't, but he noticed that my husband looked a bit off recently. His wife works at a rehab clinic after a fight where I had to flee with the kids to the neighbor's house. She pointed out that the way he was acting was the way that people acted with drug withdrawal. My neighbor and his wife ended up helping me book a flight to my parents. I'm currently with them right now, and I have spoken to a lawyer that my parents are going to help me pay for. I thank all the people from my original post that told me to keep the footage because it is going to come in handy. My husband keeps sending me videos of him shooting up and doing other substances. He keeps saying that they are going to fix him. He sent me a video of him standing in our kids' room, and he was just screaming at me, saying that it helped him cope with his ADHD. He took a knife and stabbed both of our kids' mattresses. I am not going back. He even cut up the side of my bed. There's a comment from my previous post that has been sitting in the back of my mind and has been bugging me, I think. You know which one it was by their comment, saying I don't care if it was his ADHD, isn't going to fix anything and will probably only make things worse. Talking and thinking about it like he intentionally tried to kill your child isn't helpful either. With ADHD, you sometimes do not register things at all. The life expectancy for those with ADHD is actually significantly lower because many end up, often accidentally, killing themselves. It is not the same thing as carelessness, but learning about ADHD more deeply can help you both be safer. Understanding how my ADHD works and using different precautions, tailored to how my brain functions, has likely saved my life. You should outline what you want from him. That probably includes getting his ADHD better under control, whether through prescription medication or more homeopathic methods. Finding a different place to live if possible, and ensuring he doesn't take your kids out in the front yard without you. Also, it's puzzling that neither he nor the neighbor noticed, but you heard your child from inside. Were the neighbors just watching the stroller roll towards the street? Was your husband on the other side of the house where he couldn't see the stroller? Were you already walking outside as this unfolded? I'm trying to understand better what was happening and why your husband or the neighbor did not notice, but you did from inside. People with ADHD tend to be incredibly good and quick to act in emergency situations, so this is especially strange. I'm not accusing you of leaving anything out, but asking you to consider what your husband and the neighbor were doing that neither noticed. That seems suspicious. This is a horrible situation. I lost a pet due to the inattentiveness of ADHD, but I can't imagine losing or even nearly losing a child. What the F? It baffles me that you can even compare losing an animal to losing a child. You made people with ADHD sound completely unreliable for themselves and as if they can't do anything. You made them sound very helpless, and said that the life expectancy thing was completely uncalled for as well. I bet many people with ADHD reading that completely disagreed with you, judging from all the comments and YouTube videos I've seen on my post. I don't know if you're projecting because you lost a pet from your inattentiveness of ADHD, but if you were letting things die in your care, you need to get stronger help. And no, I was not going to lay out what I wanted from him. He's the one that started mixing his meds and was high off his mind every time they went out for a walk. I am not an ableist. I was in a very vulnerable state when I first posted my original message. All I was doing was looking for help and advice, but all I got was "Where were you? And what were you doing? Why weren't you with the kids? Why didn't you get your husband checked out? I was healing from a C-section. Get that through your heads." I genuinely hope that everyone who said something horrible about me in my original post has to get cut open and then, 4 days later, be forced to run down the street. I gave him another chance, like you all said in my original post, and you saw what happened. Stop using ADHD as an excuse. I genuinely believe that if he had killed my child, you would have defended him. And no, I did not know he was on drugs. To all the people who reached out to me, I am forever grateful. All the parents with ADHD who didn't make me feel like it was all my fault and shared their stories with me made me feel seen. I know exactly how it feels. I hope everyone is doing well. To everyone who defended me, I wish I could give you a big hug and send gift baskets. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I am so sorry about that comment that person made. I know you are all not like that. You are genuinely intelligent, judging from all the comments I've read. I cannot thank you enough. And to the one person who sent me that horrible message, I genuinely hope I run into you one day so I can confront you. If you say anything about my daughter or my son one more time, I will track you down. Logging out. Top comments. First comment. Like, I have ADHD, and in my first house I taped all the burners in place so I couldn't turn them on, and in my current one I just turned the gas to the stove off completely. Knowing your limitations is a part of playing the cards you're dealt, and there's a good damn reason I'm not having kids. Why the hell would I put myself in charge of a little suicide machine when a lapse of judgment could cost their literal actual life? Second comment. It's possible to do both. Understanding means understanding that the precautions an ADHD person has to take may look different due to how their brain works, or sometimes prioritizing the essential stuff while letting some small things slide. It never means comprising the safety of your children. Like, I have specific routines to ensure I never leave my purse anywhere. It is so essential that I've basically programmed my brain to get anxious if I'm out of the house and don't feel the weight of the crossbody strap on my shoulder. Which also means, for this to work, I'm limited to only owning crossbody bags. That's the looks a little different. I can't just get a clutch and my whole system collapses. It also means that my water bottles are reused pop bottles because sometimes I leave them places. Which is okay, because I'm not spending any money on them. That's me picking my battles. But there is never a solution of just accepting that I'm going to leave my purse somewhere. It's been years and years since I've slipped up. Third comment. Let's be honest, it wasn't ADHD, it was meth and a total disregard for the children's lives. I have ADHD and am the sister of a 10-year-old boy. Even to this day, I have an automatic reaction whenever a kid trips. One eye is always on a small child, especially one that can walk. Babies should always be within arm's reach. No excuses. Am I the asshole for returning to my career to escape the overwhelming responsibility of caring for my husband's autistic niece? My husband, 30M, became the legal guardian to his sister's daughter, 17F, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a very physically and mentally demanding field. I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family, and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months into the marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage. Then his sister died and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field which allows remote work so that I'm not bored out of my mind. My SIL was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues, including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorders like dyslexia, and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work, but he doesn't. Since I am working from home part-time, most of the caretaking falls to me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She doesn't like the food I make, and most of the time she ends up throwing food at the floor or at me. I am at my wit's end, and it is just so emotionally exhausting. Around December 15th, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She is very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she is used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to be home ASAP. He said he wouldn't be able to. I went up to my room and told him I'm not dealing with this anymore. He came hours later and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called him heartless and irresponsible. I told him I've had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior and told him that I'm going to my mom's and I wouldn't be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back and he told me that my stunt had forced him to all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back. I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back, and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me and his family thinks I am being extremely selfish. So I'm asking for judgment from impartial strangers. AITA in this situation. Update. A lot of people were messaging me for an update. So, here goes. I wish I could say things got better. My husband took a few days off to interview special needs nanny caretakers. He ended up finding a good and experienced person to take on the job. He hired her for 6 weekdays. One day, she ended up saying she cannot make it for a couple of days due to an emergency. My husband had a meeting he couldn't miss and asked me to look after his niece for the day. I refused, and he took my car keys while I was getting ready and left before I noticed so that I could not go to work. I grew up with a narcissistic gaslighting father who did stuff like this all the time. I told him to come back in 1 hour or I will call CPS, and once they get there, I will call a cab and get to work. He ended up driving back, and this turned into a big fight, and I told him that if he does it again, I will walk out and never look back. He apologized and said that he was just desperate. The worst happened 2 weeks ago. I needed to travel for a couple of weeks for work and I could not find my passport. I am a very organized person and I knew that I did not misplace it. I ended up calling the non-emergency helpline. They ransacked the house and found the passports hidden in his gym bag. It is a crime to steal passports, and they asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said no. Another fight. He told me that he needed me at home that weekend due to a social welfare visit, and he knew that I would not stay even if he had asked me. I kicked them both out of my house and I told him I would call the police if he came near me again. My house is a premarital asset, thank God for that. I told him that I would be filing for divorce. The welfare visit turned into shit as neither of them were living there when the workers showed up, and the social worker also knew about the recent call to the non-emergency helpline. So, all in all, she was not impressed with our bullshit. He came by 2 days ago. He told me that ended up moving in with his parents. They own and live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. That doesn't qualify according to welfare norms. He ended up asking me for another chance. He asked if I would consider letting him and niece stay until they figured it out, or she would have to go to state's care. He told me that there is no way he can afford rent and a carer and begged me. I told him that I could never forgive what he did. He knew my past with my father and he still went ahead and did it. He suggested they could move in and we can work on this at couples counseling. I told him that I could never trust him again and that it was over. He asked me if he could get his parents to take in the niece or even relinquished her care to the state, if I would give him another chance. I think months' worth of anger burst that day. I told him that even though it may appear as if the problem between us is niece, it was actually him. He didn't ask me before taking her in. He did nothing to help. He waved my concerns away whenever I felt burnout. He took on a responsibility without consulting me and dumped everything on me. He chose to take my keys. He chose to hide my passport. I told him things may have been different. Him, my niece and I may have adapted and become a family if he hadn't made the wrong choice, at my expense, at every turn. I told him to get out of my house, it was over and I never want to see any of them ever again. I still don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I know people wanted some sort of happy ending, but it is what it is. I still have not started the divorce proceedings yet, but I will soon. For now, I am taking a break as it has been a very emotional and draining couple of weeks.